I'd like to call this meeting to order. Invocation will be led by Councilmember Chip Wilson and a pledge of allegiance by Vice Mayor.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to again serve our community. Help us and our staff during our decision-making opportunities. Help us make the decisions that will continue making this community a safe, secure, and meet the needs of all our residents. We also want to pray for everyone that's been affected by Hurricane Dean in Mexico. We pray for their safety during the storm. We also want to pray for all the families that have been affected by the flooding in the Midwest. And above all, pray for the families of the miners in Utah. Please watch over our military throughout the world, especially those in harm's way. Watch over their families as our service members serve in these troubling areas. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Slocco.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rick.
Here.
Councilmember Barker.
Here.
Councilmember Deeds.
Here.
Councilmember Surdy.
Here.
Councilmember Severs.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
All members present. You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion for acceptance of the minutes for the regular meeting?
Your Honor. Oh, you're looking for acceptance of the minutes, not the consent agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. The consent
Consent
agenda.
agenda, okay. I move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented and that approval be given for the professional services agreement between the Apache Junction Chamber of Commerce and the City of Apache Junction for economic development for fiscal year 2007-2008 for visitor center services in the amount of $45,000, and that authorization be given for the mayor to sign the agreement, and that approval be given for the professional services agreement between the Community Development Corporation and the City of Apache Junction for fiscal year 2007-2008 for a business loan referral program and other related services in the amount of $9,500, and that authorization be given for the mayor to sign the agreement, and that approval be given for the professional services agreement between the Apache Junction Main Street Incorporated and the City of Apache Junction for fiscal year 2007-2008 for various services related to the development of the downtown in the amount of $40,000, and that authorization be given for the mayor to sign the agreement, and that approval be given to purchase the street maintenance equipment of two 570 MXT skip loaders, Gannon tractors, in the amount of $76,092.96, and one 865 motor grader with Tier 3 engine and 14-foot moldboard in the amount of $160,286.77 for a total amount of $206,379.73 through the Housing Galveston Area Council Cooperative Contract number EM-06-07 from Falcon Power, and that resolution number 07-32 of resolution of the mayor and city council of the City of Apache Junction authorizing the submission of an application for state housing funds, which may include federal funding through the Home Investment Partnership Program or state housing funds, certifying that said property meets the community's housing and community development needs and the requirements of the state housing programs, and authorizing all actions necessary to implement and complete the activities outlined in said application be approved, and that resolution number 07-33, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the City of Apache Junction committing local funds as leverage for a fiscal year 2007 state housing fund SHF application be approved, and that resolution number 07-34, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, authorizing the adoption of owner-occupied housing rehabilitation guidelines dated February 1st, 1994, as amended in relation to an application for fiscal year 2008 State Housing Fund for a housing rehabilitation activity be approved, and that resolution number 07-38, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, accepting dedication of land to the city of Apache Junction, including portions of 5 parcels identified under Pinal County Assessors Parcel Number 103-21-001 011B, 103-21-011A, 100-37-005K, 101-22-007B, and 103-05-038A be approved, and that resolution number 07-39, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Pinal County, Arizona, authorizing the city to enter into an economic development agreement with Quick Trip Corporation be approved, and that the authorization be given for the mayor to sign the agreement. And that resolution number 07-40 will have no action.
Yeah. That's the one we eliminated.
Okay. Do we need the other end? And the purchase agreement and related transfer documents between American Greyhound Racing LLC and the city of Apache Junction for Delaware Drive right-of-way in the amount of $208,846 for the public roadway purposes be approved, and that the mayor be given authorization to sign the agreement and related documents subject to city attorney review and approval.
Can I amend that amount that you just read?
You can ask the
Which would be $208,846.
Isn't that what I said?
I thought you just said 46. Maybe I misunderstood.
You misunderstood.
Okay.
Do I have a
Second.
Moved in second. Roll call.
Councilmember Deeds,
Yes.
Councilmember Barker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck,
Yes.
Councilmember Severs,
Yes.
Councilmember Surdy,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Insalakos,
Yes.
unanimous, Your Honor.
We have a presentation by the Attorney General's Office on Community Service Program.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. And beforehand, I know I was told to keep this very brief. You have a full agenda tonight, so I only speak for a couple minutes just to give you an update on what we're doing in town and hopefully how we can work together. So I just want to talk briefly about the program I represent from the Attorney General's Office, the Community Services Program, and really what we're doing in the community to help out. And that really is based into 2 groups of education that we do. The first is community issues, or the first is consumer issues, and then I'll talk about some of the community issues we're looking at. In consumer issues, on the top of our list, obviously, is ID theft. Number 1 in the country is Arizona, and we're seeing large amounts of fraud and scams related to ID theft come out of the East Valley. So we're doing an extensive education program through presentations, through literature, to do what we can to educate people on how to reduce their risk of being a victim of ID theft. And talking about scams, we're doing a equally as aggressive campaign especially to the elderly citizens, to talk about consumer scams, which they seem to be falling the most prevalent to in this area and all over the state as well. But some of the major ones, like the international lottery scam, which we've seen a big rise in recently. Excuse me. Working with community partners to target predatory lenders, to educate people on the issue. Home foreclosure rates skyrocketing lately, and when we see that, we see predatory lenders come out to try and target these people, when they're at their weakest point. So working with our community partners to really educate people on how to avoid predatory lending. Fraudulent business practices as well. We are here to take consumer complaints from people that have been dealt with in a fraudulent manner from businesses, and hopefully working together with the community, we can get that in those practices and make sure people are dealt with in a fair way. So move on quickly to some of the community issues we're working on. And really on the top of my list is methamphetamines. Attorney General Goddard has been very, very aggressive in his stance towards that, and is a co-chair of the Arizona Meth Project, which I'm sure everybody's aware of here. So working with our local law enforcement, local meth coalitions and drug coalitions, we're going to continue to educate citizens on this problem and work together to lower use rates. Domestic violence issues is also a big issue at our office. We have the Cut It Out program, which partners with salons in the area to educate them on the signs of domestic violence, so they can be there if they notice one of the people there, one of their patrons may be a victim, and have shoe cards that they can hand out. So in a hurry, they may be able to give them the information they need. A new one that we've been tackling lately is life care planning, making sure that medical power of attorney, living will documents are available to everybody. Our campaign is not just for old people. Everybody's doing it to make sure that you're at the end of you have the opportunity to make the medical decisions for yourself. So presenting those to people, making sure they know how to use the documents, walking them through the registration process is something we feel is an important process, and working closely with the Secretary of State's office on that as well. So, and the last one to talk about on community issues is internet safety. I know it's in the news a lot. Catching predators online on TV, but it's something that we've been working on for a while, and getting into schools, working with not just the teachers but the administrators, and to get the parents in as well, and have a three-pronged attack. Make sure the kids know the dangers that are out there, and it's not just predators. There's all kinds of things online that are influencing the kids and making it a dangerous place. So just one of our community issues that we're concerned about and working hard to fight back on. These programs, they really only succeed when we have great community partners, and that's really why I'm here tonight, to address the community leaders here and just remind them about a great community partner we have in town, and that's the Multi-Generational Center, where we do have an office where people can go file consumer complaints if they think they've been dealt with unfairly by a business. They can get all the information about the things we've talked about. They can get more of our pamphlets to hand out to their friends and family, and then they can also schedule us to come out and do presentations to community groups to really get this message out any way we can. The office here right now is only open the first Monday of the month from 9 to 11:30, but we're working to get more volunteers so we can really keep that open at least 4 days a month. It seems to be a good time to keep it open. The Mondays seem to be a good day that people can come in and get some good information. So we know that that's going to be a successful program. We now have 35 offices around the state, over 200 volunteers, so this has been a really successful program. And these offices, as we've seen, have been the front line of fighting back against fraud and scams. Our office in Kingman, for example, gave us a call. They heard about people that came in claiming that somebody from the Attorney General's office had called them asking for personal information. And we were able to release a fraud alert immediately, within hours, to get this out, that if anybody gets a call saying they're from the Attorney General's office, don't give them any information, because it's obviously a scam. And so we were able to save countless victims money. So these have really been a great program. So we continue to look forward to working in the community, and if there's anything that our office can do to support you, we'd be happy to do so. I promise I keep it brief, so I hope that was brief enough, but I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Great idea.
Covered it all.
You covered it all.
Did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you for coming out.
Presentation and discussion with individuals in regard to downtown improvements. Councilman Surtee.
Honorable Mayor and Council, I'm Jeff Surtee. I've lived in Apache Junction for 22 years, and I'm also a recently elected councilman. In those 22 years and during the election, a couple questions kept coming up that was asked of me. What can you do about Apache Junction's negative image, and what can you do about community involvement? What we're going to present tonight is a project that will address both of those things and beautify the city and add pride for like the next 50 years. What started out as some simple questions about changing the delicate annuals that we planted at the focal point twice a year has turned into a three-phase project that is going to incorporate business, organizations, individuals, everyone to be a part of this. And Nick Blake designed the focal point. Let's see how I turn this on. 10 years ago, and didn't really appreciate it until you spend time down there. So. Okay. So there's the focal point as we have it now. And this is 2 weeks after the planting of after the petunias were just taken out. You can see it's kind of barren until until the plants catch on. What we'd like to suggest is going with something more permanent, like cactus, succulents. We are in the Sonoran Desert, and a lot of people ask me, why do we change the plantings twice a year when we could just put something in there? And yes, the flowers are beautiful once they get started, but a lot of the natural cactus, we've got blue agaves, yellow and white striped agaves, purple prickly pear, yellow barrels, purple barrels. You can put just as much splash of color in there as if you had the flowers going. Another thing to add color is if you look at the design, we actually have the Arizona flag there. The flag's not unfurled now, but those rays could mimic the flag. And just by putting colored stone in between the rays, could add something like this. This is, to find these stones, I've already had, I'm going to try not to mention businesses by name tonight, because I know that's not appropriate. One stone company's already offered to donate stone. A lot of people are coming forward. Everyone wants to be a part and donate. And the red is very easy. There's lots of natural reds. The golds and the yellow would be more difficult. It's probably not going to be this bright, although I have some brighter versions here also. If you look at our flag, it's very bright. You'd also have to remember also that each stone would cast its own shadow, and it wouldn't look this gaudy, because this kind of looks kind of like McDonald's there. But if you're standing at ground level, it wouldn't be that obnoxious. And also, you'll know in the rays, we've superimposed some of the different colors of cactus. And everyone that I've taken down here to give a tour, everyone's come up with an idea. And I'm sure that after this presentation, there's going to be many more ideas. For instance, if we're going to do the flag, if you look in the middle, we've put a copper star, which Tess Nesser, brought up. And I believe Johnny Mayor Insulaco, he's got lots of ties to Globe. He's going to try to acquire us, one of the copper companies, or maybe we could trade something with Globe, something that we have, we're going to have lots of saguaros available soon, thanks to Rick and salvaging the desert plants, so maybe we can trade them saguaros for copper star. And this is from the sidewalk down on one knee. You'll notice it's 36 inches to the podium there. So we could actually put things that would be 36 inches down low, then gradually going up to the lower barrels. And these designs are, you know, what I'll be asking for when this is all over is to form a design group or to hire an outside group to help with this. So, and there you see the lantana where that's 2 weeks. Eventually they'll be bright and yellow, but you know, it struggles and there is a lot of water waste there. And also, you know, the dirt would have to be amended. I talked with the Arboretum. Rather than take all the dirt out, they said if we just would add sand or pumice to make it more porous, it would really be a simple fix. And a couple councilmen have offered to help do that ourselves without even involving the city workers. I'm going to introduce Gene Buckborough now from the Gold Canyon Garden Club. And they've done several projects, and they have lots of ideas on this. And she's going to, what is it?
Mayor, council members, I'm Jean Buckborough, president of the Gold Canyon Garden Club. We were founded in 1998 by members that were interested in civic beautification. Our objective is to encourage interest in all phases of gardening. Home gardening, promoting civic beautification, and conservation of our natural resources is a high priority of ours. We're a member of the Arizona Federated Garden Clubs and also the National Garden Clubs. We've done several projects as a group. In Gold Canyon, in 2000, we designed and now maintain a butterfly garden. This park where this garden is off of Kings Ranch Road. You go down to the Gold Canyon Elementary School and take a left in Alameda, and it's there as part of a park. And this particular park is designed with plants to attract butterflies. And it is now one of 33,000 wildlife habitats that is recognized by the National Wildlife Federation. We also worked with the Superstition Mountain Historical Society and Museum when they were getting ready to open, and worked to design their Sonoran Desert Gardens at the museum. That was in 2003, and we also helped them work on maintaining those gardens. In 2004, we had a really great project with the elementary school in Gold Canyon where we helped them to plant 3 areas of the schoolyard for reading centers. And we helped them plant these with butterfly plants that would attract butterflies. We had donated many butterfly kits, which are larvae, to the school, and the first graders watched those larvae evolve into butterflies. And when those gardens were dedicated, those butterflies were released. And it was a very exciting day for the children. They'd worked on this project for a long time, and also for us Garden Club members. We have several of our members volunteer at the Superstition Mountain Museum, and we also have several members that volunteer at Boyce Thompson. We are interested in working on beautification, and there are so many interesting plants in our area that we have access to that it would be really fun to be able to take the plants that are currently there and design it with something that's adapted to this area, native of this area, and also that would conserve the resources of this area. We as a group are interested in working with the City of Apache Junction on the project. One of our members resides in Apache Junction. We'd love to have more members from Apache Junction, and if they were interested in Apache Junction people starting their own garden club, we would certainly be willing to assist them. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I've got some pictures here along the side of the focal point that 10 years ago, these were part of the design, but now they've grown up to be brushy. So when I invited the garden club to come out for their input, I wanted to see what we could do about this, is where we could put in more vegetation as well as in the front. And you can see some of it's kind of spotty. And we will be getting a lot of cactus from the development where, you know, we're going to be overrun with a lot of cool plants that we can bring some of them down here, some of them to the other parks. And I thought I lost my notes, but they were under Gene's papers, so I'm relieved. Also, every time someone goes down there with me, they've added to this, and it reminds me of an old fairy tale about, I don't know if it was during the Depression or the Dark Ages, where the homeless guy's alongside the road, and he's stirring a kettle of hot water, and another person comes along and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm making soup." And he looks in, there's nothing in there but hot water. He says, "Oh, no, this is soup." He said, "It would really be better if we had a potato, though." And then the guy that's traveling says, "Oh, I have a potato here," and they throw it in. And so then the next person comes along and says, "What are you doing?" I'm making soup." "Oh, that's not soup, that's hot water with a potato." "Oh, no, this is a great soup. It'd be better if we had a carrot, though." And then, "Well, I have a carrot." And so they throw in a carrot. And then to shrink this down, by the end of the parable, they've got a wonderful soup because everyone's added to it and everyone's thrown in, and that's what everyone has the opportunity to do here. In you know, whether it be a fourth grade class, a mobile home park, a corporation, individuals, which we'll get to here. Phase 2, Stephen, 1 second. Behind the focal point, everybody that I've had down there says, "Wow, I didn't realize there was so much back there." And in 10 years, it's grown into a natural park. I have these pictures over here, but I can't get them on the easel. You can see there's shade there. There's a lot of room back there. One idea that we've had is we have the flagpoles there. A lot of people have mentioned, can we move the flagpoles to the back? I wasn't passionate about that, but why not? There are flag raisings there. Let's say a governor or someone comes for a flag raising. They can then come around to the back. If we would put a little podium right here that they can give a speech from, and you could put 200, 300, 500 people possibly out here. And we could also put maybe a gazebo here, and I can maybe envision pavers here, and part of the way to pay for this would be to sell donation bricks like this, maybe $100 a piece, maybe 75. I think 100 would be better, more for corporate. That way, you know, the winter visitors, they could put their granddaughter's name down there. Then when the people come to visit, "Hey, honey, we got to go down there. Your name's down there." So, and this adds atmosphere also. If you look at a lot of the new developments, when you're walking on this, it's like you're off of the granite, and it's nice. Say, also back there already, we have a monument that people don't even realize is back there, and that is the Don's Monument. And here to talk about that is Steve Ostwinkle from the Don's Club.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me tell you a little bit about the Dons. We're a group of men and women whose mission is to perpetuate the lore and legend of the Southwest. We've been part of the Arizona community for over 70 years. We occasionally take on community service projects as well. Councilman Surtees' proposal to establish this park, or actually the park's already established, it just needs some amenities. It identifies a perfect use for this right-of-way adjacent to our monument. The Don's Monument has been in place since 1938. It stands as Apache Junction's oldest structure. It was also the first Arizona highway beautification project. The monument was designed by Fred Gyrey, who's a deceased member of the Dons Club, and it was erected by the Dons of Arizona. The Dons Board has voted to retain the services of a landscape architect to update the landscaping surrounding the monument and to provide a possible viewing area as well, to make the monument more accessible to the public as they invariably will come to this park. From a position of perpetuating the lore and legend of the superstitions, and as a community service group, the Dons of Arizona wholeheartedly endorse Councilman Surtee and his project, or proposed project. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. One of the things I'll be asking at the end of the presentation is that if the Dons do all this refurbishing, that the city would then step in to help take care of it, like we have with Gold Miners Park in the past. And yeah, we're really lucky to have this, and if you look at it, you can just see how ancient it is, and it's the oldest standing thing in Apache Junction. Going back to this picture here, I've got Greg Davis now from the Superstition Mountain Museum to speak about some other possibilities for back there.
Honorable Mayor, council members, I'm a member of the Board of Directors for the Superstition Mountain Historical Society. I'm one of the 5 founding members of the Historical Society. And currently, I'm the Director of Research and Acquisitions for the Superstition Mountain Museum. 100 years ago, the movers and shakers of the Salt River Valley had a dream. That dream was to control the flow of the Salt River into the area of Phoenix and the adjacent areas and region in order to provide a reliable source of water for the farms and ranches. A number of attempts were started to do this, and it wasn't until the United States government came up with the Federal Reclamation Project that made it possible. That project, in conjunction with the Water Users Association in Arizona, provided the funds, the people, and the materials necessary to construct Roosevelt Dam, which was designed to provide flood control, water, and as a byproduct, electricity. In order to build that dam, it was required to build 2 roads. One was the Highline Road, which came in from Globe. The second one was the Roosevelt Road. It just happened that these 2 roads were built in the shadows of the Superstition Mountains. The Roosevelt Road was built from Mesa to the site of the Roosevelt Dam. Left Mesa, went about went eastbound to what we know today as Goldfield. From Goldfield, then it went through the Salt River Canyon on up to Roosevelt. The dam was completed, I believe it was 1911. And in 1920, the Salt River Project decided that it was time to build another dam to further control the water and also provide electricity to the growing needs of the farmers and ranchers of the Salt River Valley. At the same time, they built a brand new road leaving Mesa and going to Globe. Now this road, in order to keep it short, cut off the area of Goldfield and the Weeks Ranch. They then built a road coming down from Weeks Ranch to connect to that new road to Globe. And then it carried on down into the old road going to Florence. A young gentleman's suit salesman, whose territory extended from Phoenix to Globe, saw the potential of this junction as an area where he could raise a family and make some money. His name was George C. Curtis. In 1929, he moved his family out there at the spot which is today Apache Junction. He and his wife and 3 daughters, they started out with a tent. Within several months, they had erected a 2-room facility. The back is where they lived. The front was the store and the gas station, and thus started Apache Junction. He later on added a zoo, drilled a well. Until he drilled the well, he had to haul the water in, build a house in the far back for the family, added a cafeteria, a restaurant, and a curio shop, and then eventually a garage. He grew from there. He also started a farm. I don't think many people realize that Apache Junction had a farm at one time, and he grew, hay, corn, and a variety of other items, mostly to feed the animals that he had, the horses, the mules, the donkeys, and the variety of animals they had there at the zoo. By the way, that was probably one of Arizona's first zoos. The Curtises ran the operation until in the around the 1940s, when the Andersons took control, and they continued to run it. And then in the 1950s, late 1950s, the Creighton Corporation, Development Corporation, came into the area and made arrangements to lease some of the land and purchase some of the land from the Andersons, and they developed what we know today as the Basha Plaza, the old Superstition Ho, and the areas adjacent to that. And the junction continued to grow from there until what we see today. Actually, the big growth of this region, when I speak of the region, I'm talking about Gold Canyon and going north to Goldfield and south, was when they brought the freeway in. That was the key to the growth of your region. However, that had a kind of a negative side effect because it almost started to kill the Apache Trail itself, the downtown area. You have a great story here, a great heritage. You have the Superstition Mountains, the legend and folklore of the Lost Dutchman, the Peraltas. You have the history of the ranching in the area, the farming in the area, the mining, the commerce, tourism, recreation, so forth and so forth. And this story needs to be told to the general public. And to do this, I've talked to Councilman Surtee, and he's come up with the idea of putting a number of plaques in the proposed park area that tell and depict the story of Apache Junction and its history and its folklore and its story. And speaking on behalf of the board of the directors of the Superstition Mountain Historical Society, we are much in favor of this proposal and are willing to support it as best we can, providing the history for the plaques and any other support that we can provide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, a lot of people don't know the history. My kids, I learn something every time I talk to Steve or Greg. Also, before this whole area has not been pedestrian friendly. We would change that also. Obviously, you're going to have to be able to get here to see all these things, and it's going to become a destination that people are going to want to go to. Instead, as it is now, you just drive by it and you glance over it. But after we would make those changes in the front, you wouldn't be able to take your eyes off of it. And then when word gets back of what's behind here, everyone in town would have to come out and get it to see it. And also, if you want to go see Christmas lights right now, where do you go? I always take people to like
I go in your neighborhood usually.
Sun Lakes in Gilbert or Gold Canyon. Can you imagine what these trees would look like if we lit all this up? We already put the Christmas tree out front. I think Main Street already wants the Phelps Drive project lit up. We could really make this bright, and Santa Claus could come here also. Also, with the history that Greg just told, coming up in 2012 is Arizona's centennial and the Roosevelt Dam centennial. And here to speak about that is Dr. Melanie Sturgeon from the State Archives.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I'm also here representing the Arizona Historical Advisory Commission, which is the only state commission that's dedicated to Arizona's history. And on that commission are representation from every major historical and heritage institution in the state of Arizona. And we know that in the centennial, in the year 2012, there are going to be lots of fireworks and lots of speeches and lots of dinners and lots of celebrating. But what AHAC, which is the Arizona Historical Advisory Commission, is really interested in, obviously, are those things, but they want to see things that have an enduring legacy for communities. And you may not know this about Arizona, but although we are one of the fastest growing states in the Union, there are very few people who live in Arizona who think of Arizona as their home. I live in Mesa, and we have columns in the newspaper that say, news from back home, and you can read about Ohio and every other place. So people don't tend to think of themselves as Arizonans, and one of the goals of the centennial is to have people who live here, who have moved from other places, start to think of themselves as Arizonans. And one of the best ways to get them to do that is to invest in their local communities and to learn their history and feel that they're part of it. The AHAC is designating various projects as legacy projects. And I'll give you just a short background. I know you're very busy this evening. The legislature appropriated $2.5 million to AHAC for projects with the stipulation that AHAC has to raise $5 million, and so that there would be a minimum of $7.5 million available to communities and projects throughout the state of Arizona. In order to receive this funding, you have to receive a designation as a legacy project. Legacy projects are really supposed to stimulate local initiatives and collaborative efforts amongst various community members. And so one of the things that needs to come out of these projects is ways to share our stories. And after watching this presentation, you can see there's a lot of cultural landscape here. You have a lot of history. Listening to the story about the Don's Monument, I am a historian, and context is very important to me. The fact that that was was the first beautification project and occurred during the Great Depression, that would be a wonderful thing to talk about in your park, so that people can place that in its historical context, that these are projects that they were doing during the Depression to beautify Arizona. Just to tell you what the criteria are to become a legacy project, and I will say before I tell you the criteria, you can become a legacy project now, and with that official designation, that of course gives your project a lot more cachet and importance and significance as the centennial approaches. Your project must accurately portray a significant aspect of Arizona's history. It must be accessible to large numbers of visitors. It has to demonstrate collaboration in the planning, and I've already heard a lot of that here. It has to include an educational component because, of course, children are the future of our state, and we don't want a generation to grow up who doesn't understand our community and state history. And educational components for adults and visitors who come also. And it also has to include a plan for implementation. These projects, criteria, and the application forms are available on the Arizona Centennial website. And after listening to this, I certainly hope that you will turn in this project. There is a committee that votes on whether or not they consider it to be a centennial project. But you have a tremendous numbers of possibilities in what I've watched this evening, so I certainly hope that you will do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, one of the things we'll be asking for at the end is to get started the motion to try to get those grants. And right now, the focal point doesn't even have a name. It's just the focal point. So perhaps it, something centennial point, whatever. Also, art and culture. Apache Junction doesn't have a lot of it right now. What we would propose is we have electrical boxes behind this brush right here. Jeff Bell came up with the idea of constructing a wall in front of this and to hide those, which is where we would hang these plaques. And also, we remember Professor Ann Coe from CAC when she did the presentation on the murals. She's here tonight to talk about possibly doing us a mural back there.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Well, I am an Arizonan. I'm a native, so what happens in Arizona is very important to me. All my ancestors are buried here. Well, not all of them. But, I'm a professor of art at Central Arizona College. But before I get to that, I also want you to know I'm on the Superstition Area Cultural Alliance. They'll be talking. I'm on the board of the Superstition Area Land Trust and the Trust for Public Lands. We all really support this kind of community project. And the way we can do a hands-on support of that is through Central Arizona College and the art department. You've seen the work of the mural people and my students, and we have already gotten together. School just started today, but we've already had discussions about how we would approach this mural and are very, very excited about the project and want on board. So we hope to work with you and the community for ideas on on what kind of subject matter we need here, things like that, the history. If we go for the Centennial Grant, that might influence what kind of design we do. But we're ready. When you're ready, we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Possibly the mural would be like a timeline from the Indians, the Peraltas up through now. Also, Apache Junction has many other fine artists that can't display their work here. Also here is Mike Shubik from SACA, and there's several other SACA members here. And Mike, if you could explain what you guys might provide.
Thank you, Councilman. Good evening. My name is Mike Shubik, Gold Canyon resident and active member of the community. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, on behalf of the Superstition Area Cultural Alliance, or SACA as we call ourselves, I'd like to thank you for this time and opportunity to speak to you regarding the proposed Focal Point project. I'm joined this evening by several other SACA board members, our president, Sharon Steinert, our secretary, Tess Nesser, and our vice chair, Joel Copeland, as well as Ann Coe, who just spoke, as our advisory board. Just to give you a brief summation of who SACA is, we're a 501c3 nonprofit arts and cultural organization serving the Far East Valley communities in the shadow of the Superstition Mountains. Our mission is to be the umbrella organization to foster and advocate arts and culture in the communities we serve. About a month ago, I was approached by Councilman Surtee regarding his ideas for the Focal Point project and the possibilities of SACA playing an active role. I have discussed this project with the board, and we believe that we could, in fact, play a role in the enhancement of this project. We're very supportive of public art programs, as we believe it adds greatly to the economic development of a community. Areas of SACA participation could include concept review, seeking out local artists, the selection process, while also possibly helping to secure funding to have the public art purchased and or donated for the city's benefit. In conclusion, on behalf of the Superstition Area Cultural Alliance, we would not only encourage this project, but we'd also support it however we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Mike. If you look on the back side here, I would envision the sculptures over in here. And also keep in mind, kind of think of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, in that it's never finished. If we get more art, we'll find room for it. And we can go down the other side also. That concludes well, where are we going to park? Remember, we're going to have to be back here. So I'd like Doug Dobson to come talk about how we could possibly do a parking lot. This is up at Granite Reef Park, up at the Salt River. This is a 39-foot parking lot, and they angle in. And you can see the curb over here. This is me parked 39 feet in behind the focal point, and you can see there's room to spare. We wouldn't even have to have a 39-foot parking lot. So, there's the side view. You can see there's plenty of room for a parking lot there. And Mr. Dobson will address this.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, I'm Doug Dobson, the interim director. Councilman Surtee asked me to meet him down there to look at this and talk about the possibility of parking, what could be done, if it could be done. And what I did is I went back and took the aerial of the focal point, and luckily I did have cars in there. So by coming in off of North Plaza, has a right turn only entrance and a right turn only entrance back onto Apache Trail, you can make the parking lot work. I put in 6 parking spots, but you could actually add more parking spots if you wanted to. You could go 10, 12 parking spaces instead of what you've got. For example, when you first come in here, you could actually have parallel parking, and then you could add additional parking spots on this end. He asked about the, can't yet. On the, House PC.
You've only been gone a couple of weeks. You
Yeah.
forgot how to run it already?
Forgot how to do this. If you notice, the back part of his car, his vehicle there is a backflow prevention device in a cage, and there's a meter box there. He asked me about the possibility of moving that. Could you move it? Would it have to stay there or whatever? You could actually move it to the east, behind the existing walk you see, and all you'd have to have is an agreement or an easement with the Dons to place it there, and that way you could use the whole thing. He asked me today about the possibility of using millings or something for the parking lot. You could do that to save money, but my recommendation would be just come in and pave the parking lot and stripe it and have 2 over native. It would work, and like I said, you could park 6 to 12 cars in there. Any other thing? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Doug. There'll also be an opportunity to get some land from the developers that own the Grand also later. But as of right now, they're just investors. As we know who we're dealing with, we could possibly get that. I know this is taking longer, so I'm going to try to speed it up. So that was phases 1 would be the front of the focal point. Phase 2 would be the park in the back. Also letting you know, when the last tower of the Grand came down, there were some big Gs up there. And I called George and asked if we could get one, and we didn't have a boom truck, and Gil Verley from Sign World went over, and we have one of those Gs, so I would like to seek some kind of a remembrance of the Grand Superstition Inn back there also. Moving out to phase 3 would be the medians of the city, and this area right here. And Nick Blake has, could you speak about the marquee sign that would go in this area right here?
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Parks and Recreation Department budgeted funds for a community marquee, which council approved at the time the annual budget was adopted. That amount was for $55,000. The Parks and Recreation Department, along with other civic and nonprofit organizations, currently advertise community events through the placement of banners in the center median along Apache Trail. These banners cost approximately $300 to have made, and then the Parks and Recreation Department charges a fee of $25 to put those banners up. The process of installing the banners involves the use of the city boom truck as well as 2 parks workers to both put up and take down those banners. Additionally, many of the banners are destroyed by the wind, and often within a day or two after they're put up, in which, you know, that shortens the time that somebody can advertise something. Either that or they go out and have to purchase another banner. So there's some significant costs there. If you look here in the picture that's on the screen right now, I can't point to that, can I? Anyways, okay, here we go. If you go across the street from the focal point, we proposed that this marquee be placed in the general vicinity of right in here. This would be across the street. This is city right-of-way that the city does own, and that sign could be placed in that particular location. Let me switch to the dock cam here for just a second. That basically shows the approximate location of where the sign would go, which would be right here, and then put in on an angle so that it becomes viewable for everybody at that intersection. The Parks and Recreation Department is recommending an electronic marquee as a kind of community bulletin board in which community events could be advertised to the public. I have here a sample. We've talked with several sign companies, and do have a sample of one sign that was proposed. This would fall within what our budget is. I guess that's not showing up particularly well. I don't know if I can brighten that or not. But, well, in any event, you can see that there's a video display area within this where we have a lot of versatility in how we promoted and made people aware of our city activities. The marquee is also a way to provide revenue for the city as an effective way to promote these activities by selling advertising time to the many community and nonprofit organizations that we currently serve, and at a cost less than the $325 that they're basically paying now to have us put the banners up. Additionally, it would save the labor of installing the banners and removing the banners. A marquee such as this could be operated from a computer within the Parks and Recreation office and would give us just all kinds of versatility on how we could promote city events and keep our community informed of what's happening. With that, I'd entertain any questions that anybody may have.
No questions. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, we can only change that animation once every hour, right?
Yeah, here's exciting.
Yeah.
Honestly, Nick, I really like it. I personally would like, when we get closer and more serious, I'd like us to think of something maybe more Western of a decor, you know, on the other part, but just a thought.
Sure.
Give a lot of thoughts in this process.
It's a great idea.
Let's see, we are back to house piece there. There we go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
The things we could advertise would be Lost Dutchman Days, Day of the Cowboy that we just had, Ben Johnson Days, all those things, the election coming up, you know, whatever, the dedication of a new piece of art behind the focal point. And also we'd like to see these very modern bare light poles when we put in this Western marquee sign, something more to match what we've already done over there on Phelps. So that's phases 1 and 2. Going on to phase 3. we have big, wide, clean medians in the city that they're not ugly, but they're just not very attractive. This is a section here in front of, I'm going to try not to mention businesses by name, but some of them might slip. This is in front of.
This would be just south of the focal point.
Yes, it is. So
By
this
that
is
dead Oscar.
this is one. Look, this is from across over here, and you'll see that things are growing out there already without water. There is no irrigation out there, so if we do vegetation, it is possible to get it started. We might have to baby it for a year or two while watering it, but once it gets going, I think it would go. There again, it's just not very attractive. You can see.
Saguaros.
There's coming in from the west to the east. I can see lots of possibilities there. So how can we pay for this? How can we get this accomplished? This would be an easy one here. There's drainage just to both sides, maybe even with some kind of a paint in there, or maybe paint lizards like we did down at the freeway. There's one in front of a music store, I believe, right there. That gives you an example of how big these sections are. There are 13 of these sections in the city. What I would want to propose would either through organizations like Superstition Horsemen, the Elk, the VFW, if they could come up with money to have an Adopt a Median program, just like Adopt a Highway, only they wouldn't be doing the work. We would be doing the work. Just capital. Yes. Yeah. Perhaps they can't come up with the money. So in front of along the trail, we have certain businesses. What I would like to do is ask each business in front of them, for instance, Walmart's an obvious choice. Walmart, would you like to adopt the median in front of your business? And they would come up with the funds for that. We have several banks, 3 grocery stores. Section this out 100 yards at a time. The medians are 50 feet wide by 100 yards approximately. Just doing colored stone does amazing things. If we go 2 inches thick, that's 125 tons at about $27 a ton. You're looking at $3,400. Some of the sections are bigger. Then you throw in $1,000 worth of plants to $6,000 to $8,000 a section, but with us doing the work, and you could have an Adopt a Median. And of course, there would be little signs there honoring whoever did it. If, peer pressure would be big. I mean, if one of the grocery stores did it, I would hope the other 2 would jump in. This shows the Superstition Harley. You can see they've got their own landscaping here, but then in front here, it's bland and bare. So I would hope that someone like them could maybe come through and adopt this section here. And of course, there would be standards on this. It would be nice if each individual section could have their own input on how they could do it, but that could get out of, it wouldn't flow that well. So the city is not set up to take donations. However, Main Street has wanted this project done since clear back into the 90s, and Robin Barker came up with and showed me that they had plans for this all, and no one's ever jumped on it and done it. So I'd like Raina to come forward and explain how we could get some of these corporations or organizations to come through for us.
Thank you, Councilman Surtee, Mayor Salaco, Vice Mayor, council members. Just real quick, in 1993, your predecessors saw the need to focus attention on the recently bypassed Apache Trail. At that time, the city applied to and received status as a Main Street revitalization community. In the last 14 years, Main Street has contributed significant effort and resources to help our city maintain downtown as the heart of our community. 14 years later, many studies, charrettes, and public meetings, we stand before you again to advocate for downtown. It does my heart good because what Councilman Surtee, some of the elements that he and the partners are bringing to this focal point project are just, as Councilwoman Barker has indicated, it's been years of contributions of members of this community to these public meeting processes. And I was glad to see the plan he had on his desk, because that was one of the very first Main Street plans. And I am very pleased that this council has chosen to focus on downtown. And one way that Main Street and the Community Development Corporation can assist with this effort, certainly continuing to advocate. We still want to see some festival space in downtown and some public seating, those kinds of things. But the CDC is set up as a 501c3 community-based organization. We can accept contributions, of course, with committee oversight, however that is structured, and certainly to assist in community advocacy, liaisoning, anything that it takes to get the word out, to build the partnerships that will be needed to see this to fruition. I'm from the community of Globe, Miami, and years ago they started a project, Marin Sulaco Project Pride, and different organizations adopted a corner of their community. And I see this happening, and we're still a new community, and I think this is going to be something that can bring us all together as a community. Thank you.
Thanks, Rena. So I'm almost done. So remember, this could be an ongoing project also. Once a section's done, and then the organization, or if they want to add to it the following year, say they get it vegetated, they come up with works of art, we could also put artwork down the center of the city. And everyone would be welcome, whether it be a 3rd or 4th grade class from one of our, a family. There will be something for any of them to do. When I talked about the bricks, Supervisor Smith said, well, I want to buy a park bench. I hadn't even considered that. Yeah. We can put park benches back in phase 2. And so remember the first 2 things I opened with. What can we do about our negative image and community involvement? I want people to drive down our median and go to this focal point and say, wow, I didn't realize Apache Junction was this pretty and we had all these things out here. So what I'm asking for is to apply for the grants, especially the Centennial. Any other grants? George, see if we have any money left over. The parking lot, I think the city would have to pay for, but then Main Street and whoever will try to get the corporations and the organizations to kick in and help. And the sense of pride, I see lots of ribbon cuttings. Every time a new piece of art gets presented, it gets in the paper. Everybody has to go down and look at the new piece of art. A new section of the median gets opened. Ribbon cutting, thank you, this grocery store, thank you, whoever.
Jeff, are you suggesting, I'm assuming you're suggesting that there's going to be like a planning group that would plan this whole thing? And
there will either be a committee, that's what I'm asking for also. Right. When we come back in 2 weeks, we've considered this, that a committee be formed. I would want it to be represented with a historian, an artist, possibly a council member. Someone from Main Street is an obvious choice, so that we would have everyone represented, no one excluded. Hopefully no dominant personalities on that committee that would exclude anybody, because every idea would be viable. And there's ideas out there that we haven't even heard that may really make this take off. So that's what I'll be asking for also. And if we have to wait until next year's budget, fine. But some of these things, I think we could get right on and with the volunteer work. So,
Jeff, I got to tell you, I commend you on this project and the work you've done to prepare for it. I don't know that anyone's brought so many different organizations that pertain specifically to what this project that would help this project, and you've also obviously came prepared.
Thank you.
And I think you're trying to start a catalyst to something that could be really great.
And it's going to be very important that once we get this coalition formed, that we build on this momentum and don't let it die like it has before.
Think of the flack you took for the thought beginning. Man.
So, all right. So I want us all to not let this momentum stop and just keep going and make the whole city down the center beautiful. So that's what I'm asking.
You know, Jeff, I know it's probably irregular to do this, but I applaud you for your effort in this.
Thank you. So that's all I have, and if anyone has any questions about questions that have come up or possible problems, I guess next work session or whatever, I'll be talking to you all individually, and I'll answer any questions, and any of the people that presented tonight also. So thanks for everyone who's contributed.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great.
Very nice.
Good idea.
Great. You want a break?
It's Rick, man. He
Oh,
can't
yeah, poor
hold
Rick.
us
Let's
back.
take a 5-minute break, please.
I want it on the record who was that wanted that break.
Yeah, I think I heard his voice. I'm not real sure, but I think I did.
We came down here on a bus trip 10 years ago. We waited. 6 years ago and said, we got to get away from these Midwest winters. It'll be all right. What do you think? I have this story in writing.
You are. Always keep it.
I listen to you. I listen to you. Well, while we're waiting on everybody else, I wanted to share something with Robin. This is something that I have been talking about for a year now. You had when we talked about the I have found that they don't work.
Call to the public? You got it. Where's the rest of our crew? This is a time set aside for each of our meetings of the public to address the council. If you wish to speak, you must fill out a request to speak form. You may fill one out now and hand it to the city clerk. When called upon to speak, please come forward to the microphone podium and state your name and address for the record. If there is a group speaking on the same subject, please choose a spokesperson. The council welcomes all your comments and suggestions. Arizona open meeting law allows individuals to address the council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the council. Council may not answer your questions or discuss your comments at this time. However, at the conclusion of the call of the public, council may do one of the following: respond to criticism made by an individual who addresses the council, ask staff to review a matter, ask staff to place a matter on a future agenda. Council shall not suggest or discuss or take legal actions on matters raised to the call of the public unless the matters have been properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Due to time restraints of the meeting, there is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. And please, it's going to be a long meeting, so. The first one I have is Todd O'Leary.
Good evening, Mayor Encelaco, members of the council. I'm Todd O'Leary. I live at 2898 South Arizona Road. Unfortunately, I missed the beginning of Councilmember Surtees' presentation, but it sounds like a great idea. But personally, I got to admit, I'm getting frustrated. I'm not so sure that it's enough fast enough. I have a little bit of frustration. I know a couple weeks ago you guys held a special meeting for the budget. Vice Mayor Eck, I overheard you saying that you've been waiting 14 years for something to happen. Councils should be motivating the city. I know the outgoing mayor had said that you're just a policy board, but I think you also are that motivational factor to get everybody moving in the right direction. Mayor Encelaco, I also happened to read something in the East Valley Tribune recently where there was a statement about there being no land available in the existing city boundaries. And I drive through here a lot and I see plenty of land with a lot of for sale signs on it. And I think we need to look at how do we get this land moving, how do we get this land to change ownership so we can get development happening. The next thing we need to do is that I don't think, honestly, that painting lizards inside that little drainage trough along the trail is going to bring businesses to Apache Junction. I don't know about you, but would you is that going to motivate you if you were a business owner to move your business to Apache Junction? I think we need to recognize that, yeah, the US 60 took traffic away from the Apache Trail, and Apache Trail is no longer the main thoroughfare for our city. We talked about the western entrance. Well, a lot of the people that I talk to at my office, they don't go through the western entrance. They take Highway 88. That's their limited exposure. I like the idea of improving the aesthetics of Apache Trail, and I know that Highway 88 is not our jurisdiction, but at some point I think locality ought to count for something, and I think if we want to improve any particular thoroughfare, improving the appearance of Idaho Road might also be a wise idea. I don't know if anybody's had an opportunity recently to see the changes that the city of Phoenix has made to Baseline Road, but it is a much more attractive thoroughfare, and I think if I were a business owner, it'd be a much more attractive place to locate my business. And along with Idaho Road, I think one of the things we need to look at is that do we have enough, is a perception of wealth and disposable income. How do we bring that up in our city? And I think we need to motivate Central Arizona College to invest in that resource there. We could do great things by providing more educational opportunities for our citizens. I think Apache Trail should be rezoned and become a mixed-use corridor. I think ideas like higher density residential with apartments and condos, a mixed use concept, a walkable idea like you suggested that's pedestrian friendly, and possibly working with Maricopa County and Valley Transit to maybe bring one route to give access to people in and out of Apache Junction so again people can have opportunities. I just wish that we would make, the park is a good idea, but I'd like to see more happen. Thank you.
Lester Pierce.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'm the owner and president of Pierce Homes Incorporated. We're a small building company. We build a few homes each year. I have a lot of history here in Apache Junction. My grandfather settled here in the 30s. I remember the little zoo that used to be on the corner, and one of the monkeys that was anything but courteous to everybody that showed up. And so I have a foundation here in Apache Junction. I do live in Mesa. My address is 1457 East Hackamore Mesa, Arizona. We're here because I bought a few lots on South Main, and we started developing those lots, improving that area, which is a blighted area. In the process of doing so, we were applying with Apache Junction building department, getting permits, building what is a nice, affordable home. But on submitting the last request for a permit, our costs escalated about $9,000 because of the fees that are being held and imposed, the impact fees. What I noticed on item 11 and 12 on your consent agenda were two items, which was to bring development to the area of Apache Junction, where you believe that will improve the one. You had a beautiful presentation from Surdy about the view of what they see, and bringing these businesses in would do that. But we're trying to build homes that are affordable and clean up in a lot of your areas. I submitted a letter to all the council, I believe it was circulated, about some of our concerns. We would like to proceed with this process, but we find that commercial has a way to waive some of those fees, but your residential does not. And what we'd like to do is see that done. I just toured yesterday part of the southern area, and at $435 a square foot for a house. We just sold one in your downtown area at $109 a square foot, making it very affordable. Nice home, block fences, good gates, and so forth. So what our request is, we would like to see this put on an agenda to be able to be reviewed and determine whether that ability to waive those fees would be advantageous for Apache Junction and advantageous for us as a builder to be able to continue our project. A loss of $10,000 on a very low market and markup, and a deteriorating residential market right now makes it near impossible for us to continue the process. We do have 3 more lots there on South Main. We would like to improve those. We'd like to get the assistance of Apache Junction. We've devoted the resources. We would like Apache Junction to devote the resources to help us do that. Thank you. I'd like to answer any questions if there are any.
Can't do that. Jeff Nesser?
Tess Nesser, 1511 South Cactus Road. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, City staff, and public. I just want to let you know that we had the Boys and Girls Club Bowl-a-thon a week ago Saturday, and it was a roaring success. And I'll let Sandy tell you in a minute how roaring it was. But I want to thank everyone who bought raffle tickets. We raised a nice amount of money on those tickets, and I did sell one of the winning tickets, like I almost do every year. I sold the second number 2 ticket to our very own Councilman Surdy.
Yeah.
So thank you all for anyone who helped us with the raffle tickets and the bowl-a-thon.
The amount was $17,170, give or take $1 or $2, from my memory.
Very good. That's good.
And that's sold by $75 lanes for 5 people to bowl, gifts for the silent auction, and also we had a live auction for a trip, and just the people from all walks of life that come out and support it. And I want to tell you that we are now starting our capital campaign to build the building, and that's a good part of it. So thank you very much for your support and for the youth of Apache Junction. We appreciate it.
Doug Coleman. He told me he felt strange sitting on that side of it.
Mayor and Sulaco and members of the City Council, my name is Doug Coleman, and I reside at 1474 South Royal Palm here in Apache Junction. I want to share with you a recurring nightmare that I've been having. I hope it's not a vision of the future. I don't think that it is, but in this nightmare, I see a meeting of the State Land Commission, the Governor, the Attorney General, the State Treasurer, and the State Land Commissioner is making a recommendation to them as to who should serve the state land to the south of us. And the State Land Commissioner says, you know, we really should consider Apache Junction to service this land to the south. He says, in fact, I guarantee that if Apache Junction services that area, we won't have any substandard developments. And the Governor says, are you sure? How can you ensure that we won't have any substandard developments? And the State Land Commissioner says, well, because to have substandard developments, you first have to have standards. And I go, ouch, and I wake up. It's terrible. I am concerned. I'm concerned that we are looking at a future that has two very distinct and separate Apache Junctions. One community north of Baseline with views of power lines and mobile storage containers and very low property values, and another community south of Baseline that is totally in the 21st century with underground utilities, development standards that will ensure the protection of property values of those who purchase homes in that area. I think the thing that worries me the most is that if we, as a community, give up on enforcing standards or even having standards on the north side of town, then what should be our future planning area to the south will be given to another municipality to plan, develop, and provide services to, thus ensuring that Apache Junction will never have an adequate tax base to support itself or the programs that we as citizens would like to see and the quality of life that we would like to have here in Apache Junction. And I want you to know that you are being watched. Everything that you do, everything that you consider, if it's for a few people, you're being watched. And they're going to use everything that you do against us. I also would like to address Mr. Pierce's concern. I, as a citizen here, do not want to subsidize his development. Those development fees pay for the costs of the roads and the infrastructure for those houses that he's building. I doubt very greatly whether he will be living in one of those homes. He'll probably still be in Mesa, and that's fine. But we will be left with having to pay for the infrastructure if we don't charge those development fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Smith, did you have another? You were just added on to the test, as that before.
All right. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council and audience, I would just like to tell you that I really enjoyed Mr. Surtees' presentation. I've lived here for 37 years and worked a lot with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Main Street organization, and there's been embers that have been there just kind of smoldering and ready for somebody to put a flame and make them come to fruition. The focal point, the art, the late Bob DeBow had talked about that. And your ideas and that you have brought forward and brought the team together to accomplish that, and the partnerships that you're bringing together is amazing. And for us to be able to take the big steps, we are going to have to take the baby steps too. But I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation. My offer to buy a bench is still there. I was amazed when I went back there at the amount of space. I was here for when we dedicated the 50-year dedication of the monument of the Don's Club. And we had a big celebration out there. When we first dedicated the first historic highway, Highway 88. And when the governor came down and they made the dedication of the road, and they had a wonderful Indian lady that came and talked about her as a child when they built that road. We have all that history here. And we have the mountain, and we have other people from other cities that capitalize on that. What you're doing is being able to capitalize on our natural history and what we have here. And we have a rich one. And so as much as I can be a part of that, I would love to be. And so you've just brought those embers and brought them out. And I just love the way you did it. It was so great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any rebuttals?
Johnny,
what's this one?
Just saw it. No? Okay, I do.
Okay.
Mr. O'Leary said something about me making a comment at the one meeting about, that's what I heard 14 years ago. It was 10 years ago. It was to the employees, and the comment made was just wait, just be patient. When we grow, then your salaries will increase. And it was almost verbatim from what I had heard a decade ago. So that was the comment that I had made. And Idaho Road actually has been considered for some major improvements. We were hoping to do it in conjunction with some development, and it was, what we were looking at was very beautiful. So it's not necessarily off. It's just that the development stops, so hopefully the next one will come and have the right idea to where it is an entrance into an area where people want to go and be. And I think I met Mr. Pierce one time at John's barber shop getting his hair cut there. You were talking about building a house on South Main.
I also have one, that newspaper article that Mr. O'Leary is talking about, if it was read right. I was asked a question if we had any private land in our city, and the statement that I had made, I says, there has been no farms that we could sell. We don't have that many, that kind of property in Apache Junction. We might have a lot here for sale, but I was talking big acreage that, let's face it, Chandler and Gilbert, it was all farmland. People sold it off, developers bought it. We are not lucky to have that type of, we have to depend on state land to get for the big developments. So if it was read right, he would have understood that. So if there's no more, we'll go on. Manager, comment?
I just wanted to let Mr. Pierce know that we are discussing what would be called fill-in. So we are aware of that, and we are discussing it.
No report, Your Honor.
No report. Application for a special event liquor license for Superstition Hog Chapter 2008 Model Open House.
Yes, Your Honor. Excuse me. Since they've come to the community, Superstition Harley has conducted a number of very successful events. They're seeking a special event license for another one of these events. This would be held in September, on September 8th. They're looking for a special event license. There have been no objections raised by city staff or the fire district, and they are working with city staff on issues such as access, safety, those types of things. And the representatives have been notified of tonight's public hearing, and they are present if you have any questions.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Mark LaReche, 2910 West Apache Trail, Apache Junction. My wife Beverly LaReche and Jenny, she is our events coordinator.
Jenny.
What we are celebrating here is it's a national, Harley-Davidson has a national open house. And the event is coordinated with our dealership is September 8th here in our community. We plan on having some live entertainment. It's going to run from approximately till 8 p.m. So we're very well of our neighbors, and we respect their right to their privacy. So, but it's a national open house, and you'll see us again. We're going to have another one in October, and other events down the road. So if there's any questions, I certainly can field those if you like right now.
Anybody have any questions?
Yes. Who's playing this year?
I'll let Miss Jenny talk about that.
We have two bands this year. It will be the Chadwicks and Metalhead.
Nice.
I listened to 38 Special from my house last year. They were good. They were real good.
Since these meetings are televised, I want to let the people that are watching know that we have addressed the noise problems, that the speakers will be angled in a different direction.
That's correct.
And what else has been done to help with that?
Basically, what we're doing is our vegetation that was originally planted is finally starting to take off. It's on the north side of our lot that runs east and west. That stuff is finally starting to fill in a little bit, and over a period of time, that in itself will assist. But the speaker direction is very important to us and our surrounding neighbors too. So
And they are going from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m. with the music.
Right.
Yes.
Well, actually, the music,
Music does not start until 2 o'clock.
Pardon me?
The music will start at 2
No, I was
o'clock.
talking about ending.
Oh, 8 p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m.
p.m.
I
is
think,
it.
what, 10 p.m. last year or something like that?
I don't know
well,
how long.
that was for our special open house, our grand reopening.
Our grand reopening.
Okay,
Yes,
that's what it was for.
but no, we're only going to 8 p.m.
Even though our noise law is 10.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Thanks.
We respect that.
Yes.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you have our commitment on the median.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Your own?
Yes.
I move that the application for a special event liquor license submitted by Mark Allen Lishier, I'm not saying that right, of Superstition HOG Chapter Inc. for 2008 model open house to be held on September 8th, 2007, be recommended for approval to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control.
Moving second, roll call.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Mayor Inslaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Proposed resolution number 07-35, approved preliminary plat for Foothill subdivision by Cornerstone Homes. Assistant Planning.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Good evening. I'm presenting tonight PZ 907, SD 107, a major plan development amendment to a CR5 PD zone requested by Cornerstone Homes and a concurrent preliminary plat for the Foothill subdivision. Sorry. This is a location. It's the northwest corner of Southern and Ironwood. As you can see, it's phase 2 and phase 3 of what used to be what is Merrill Gardens. Proposals for the site are 118 lots, 2,240 square foot lot sizes, an oversized parking garage, 45 spaces of guest parking, 4 floor plans, 12 elevations, and a walkway, a path to connect that, the amenity tracks on each side on the east and the west development. The architecture is Tuscan style. Extra details to the homes will include stone veneers, wrought iron in front porches. Primary materials, tile roof, stucco, finish with masonry and wrought iron accents. This is a preliminary plat for the Foothill subdivision. As you can see, this is the pathway, the walkthrough. It's 4 feet. It's actually a 4-foot sidewalk, sorry, that connects to the amenity areas on this side, on the east and the west. These are some of the pictures of the homes. This is the rear setback, which is 5 feet. This is the side setbacks, 5 and 3, which make 8 feet. And the major amendment proposal, which the existing zoning is a CR5 PD, which allows multifamily with some residential casitas for the assisted living facility, which was Merrill Gardens. The new major amendment to the CR5 PD zone allows single-family homes in the CR5 zoning density. The CR5 density will allow a developer to build 118 lots and 11.62 acres. This is the deviations table. Basically, the standard CR5 district would allow the minimum lot size 10,000 square feet. They're requesting 2,000 square feet. The single-family standard for a subdivision would be 7,000 square feet. I'm not going to go over all these since we're kind of late, but you can see that they're requesting the rear setback 5 feet. The CR5 standard would be 35 feet, front setback 25 feet. They're requesting 10 feet. Also the building separation, which is only 8 feet, and they're usually 14 feet for CR5. Also the parking, the required parking is 2.33. 0.33 is for guest parking. The parking provided is 163. That's without the driveway, the use of the driveway as parking, which they are requesting to allow us to use the driveway, which would be over what the amount for 118 dwellings. They would be at 281. Usually it's like 274 for a single family.
You know, these comparisons, though, I mean, they're only going CR5 because they would be considered a home. It's actually zoned what? It's a zone for apartments, right, currently?
That's correct.
Which is what zoning?
It's CR5 multifamily.
It is CR5 multifamily? Okay, but CR5 multifamily doesn't have the minimum lot size of 10,000 feet or the minimum lot width of 70 feet.
These are all the required standards for CR5 standard. Those are required, 10,000 square feet. It would be 2,000, and you would just divide it by the 10,000 square feet minimum lot size. You would get a certain amount of lots depending on the acreage.
But if this is multifamily, it could be apartments, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could have 260, 270 apartments on this piece of property.
Yes.
And they could do that right now if they were building apartments.
Yes.
So this is less density than it would be if it were apartments.
That's what I was getting at, is it is actually less density now.
It is less dense.
But in order to show that, you would have to, there's no way to show what the actual apartment zoning minimums are.
I didn't calculate that.
Okay, that's fine. We're not really comparing when it shows how large they are. I think it's kind of misleading for some people to think, wow, they're really letting them go, a fifth of the size.
It is a lot more.
It's, yeah, the apartment size would be considerably much more like what the request is.
I had a question. On the parking, why would somebody have to request to use their driveway as a parking space? Isn't that just kind of a given?
For single-family homes, we request that they have a 2 parking space provided for single families. Since they are going to have single families, we are requesting that. Usually the driveway is a setback, so they can't park there. They are requesting, they are actually asking if we would allow them to use the driveway as a parking space.
They're public streets, aren't they?
That's private.
Private.
Private?
Private street.
So there's no parking on the street?
They were going to allow parking on one side of the street.
On one side?
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, maybe I interrupted you before you were done with your, go ahead, Annette, I'm sorry.
It's okay. The city council's concerns were that there were no sidewalks on either of the residential street provided where children can walk on to the amenity areas, and also that the height of the homes might block the view of the Superstition Mountains for the residents residing on the west side of the property. The staff recommended conditions to address council's concerns, that the heights of all the homes do not exceed 26 feet, measured to the peak of the roof, and that a sidewalk be added to one side of the street, of every street, and the private street be not less than 28 feet in width. I'm here for the approval or denial for ordinance number 1306 and resolution 0735.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would the building height be of the apartments?
It'd be 25 feet, not to exceed 25 feet.
I thought apartments are considered commercial, they could be 35 feet.
No, not for commercial is 25 feet. It can't exceed, it can't go over 30. Actually, for CCD district, you can go over a certain amount, but that's just.
Your Honor?
Yes.
What is a public street width for a subdivision like this? Is it 33?
I believe so, yeah, that's 33 feet.
So it's just 5 feet less in width?
Yeah.
Private is 28, isn't it?
Yeah,
Private's
it's
28, they can go up to 28 feet.
And fire looked at this?
Yes, they did.
No quorum.
They didn't have any problems with it.
No, they didn't have any problems.
Has the applicant been told about the sidewalks, and have they agreed about that?
He agreed to it.
Okay.
And it's in your packet, he sent a letter. They also have the line of sight in the packet, and they will be presenting
Okay.
after this.
Is there any more questions?
And there's just one entrance, ingress, egress, that's the northeast corner, is that correct?
One main entrance, yeah.
So they'll come in, is that, yeah, Renaissance?
Yeah, right there.
It's this one. This is 20th, and
Well, they
obviously
come
Renaissance
in
is,
on
yeah,
Renaissance.
yes. They would be
So
coming in.
they hit a stop sign and then they hit another stop sign to get on that.
Yes.
Any more questions?
So I imagine those people aren't. gonna
Thank you.
No.
Is the applicant here?
Corner's gonna be mighty.
They like that.
A lot of traffic.
No, no way to get over
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. My name is Travis Williams. I'm the Associate General Counsel for Cornerstone Homes and Development. I've been asked to present this application to you on behalf of Cornerstone instead of Evan Shuby, and it's my pleasure to do so. I appreciate your time tonight. First, I want to keep time short, so I'm going to just briefly introduce our company, why we're excited to be here, and I'll leave the rest of my remarks to any questions you may have. Cornerstone Homes has been in the home building business for over 10 years. We build typically over 200 homes per year. The owners and most of the employees are residents of the East Valley. We are local. We enjoy being in the East Valley. We enjoy developing property nearby. We're not some large national public firm that has headquarters in another state. We are here, and we love being here, and we are interested in building beautiful and quality developments in our cities. We like to extend our appreciation to staff. They've always responded to us in a professional manner, been very courteous, very efficient. We appreciate their help. One of the things that they have helped us with is some very helpful comments, such as the walkway that connects the amenity areas. That's just one example of some of the great comments and suggestions they've had for us. But we've worked very hard. This is the fourth revision before you of this development. We've gone through some different changes to maximize the amenities, to maximize safety, to maximize the enjoyment of living there. We've also done some adjustments to minimize the effects on neighbors nearby. And one of the things that we really want to do in this development is to create a property that the city can be proud of. We've heard a lot of testimony, a lot of speaking today about the concern of developments, residential, otherwise, in the city that may not look so nice years down the road. One of the things we've done here is we've created something for longevity. The front yards will be put in when the houses are built. The front yards will be maintained by the HOA. So at the same time the common areas are trimmed and taken care of, so will the front yard. So the whole neighborhood is going to look nice for a long time. And finally, one of the things we're very excited about this is that it is an infill. It's difficult to find a great infill piece. And one of the tricky things with infill is you have to deal with the transition nature of it. To the south, we have some commercial use. To the east, we have a multifamily use with Merrill Gardens. To the west and to the north, we have single-family use. Well, how do you address that? How do you put a nice transitional use? And we believe that this is a perfect fit for infill, in particular this site. Staff said that during our presentation we would show you a line of sight visual. So what I'd like to do first is show you under the current CR5. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, if you can zoom in. What we've shown here is from the standpoint of this person is neighbors in the single-family homes to the west, looking generally east towards the Superstition Mountains. This is to really address their concerns and issues about their line of sight to the mountains. So right here is with a 50-foot setback for a CR5 use. What we've put here is a line of sight for a CR3 use if it was a single-family home. I believe it would, with a 25-foot home, 20 feet with a 20-foot setback, obviously their line of sight skyrockets and would diminish and be much closer to that building. But what we've proposed, the closest home to the neighbors to the southwest that we have heard from and met with, the closest house is approximately 167 feet when you add in the actual distance between property lines and when you add in the distance of the setbacks between their house as well as to these houses. So to combine what I'd like to show the council here, just to review, I'm sorry, that's not working. The top line would be if there was a use for single-family homes. The second line is if the apartment such as Merrill Gardens proceeded and built a multifamily product. And the lower line, with the lower line of visibility, is if we were able to proceed under the application. With that, I appreciate your time again. What we're really looking to do here is build a beautiful product. We want to build a product that lasts years and years and years. It's going to be an asset to the community and really serve as an infill piece here for the community. Thank you.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, my name is Conrad Pazinski. I reside at 1069 West 14th Avenue, not too far from the Cornerstone project, as you would call it. Cornerstone Builders wants to put in 118 homes on a little over 11 acres. After streets and common areas, they are required to put into a planned community that would leave about 2,000 square foot lots. That would mean that they could just about put 2 homes in a room like this. That's a far cry from the 7,000 square foot for single-family homes in that area. This development would not have sidewalks on both sides. Walkers will have to walk in the street. Kids on little kids on tricycles would have to be in the streets. Now, they may say, well, they can go on that walkway they plan to put between the homes. How many women will let their kids go on that where it's so far away from their homes without having to take them? Not very many would want to. I don't think any of us would want them to. This development would not have sidewalks, or I went over that already. When developers wanted to make 1 acre instead of 1 1/4 acre sites across from the rodeo grounds, the horsemen said the lots were too small. The majority of the city agreed with them. Those builders weren't allowed to put up homes on 1 acre because it wasn't zoned for 1 1/4. Now on the south side of the city, they want to put approximately 13 homes on 1 1/4 acres. Like I said, that would, just about 2 homes would fit in this room. There's no real front end, there's no real yard, there's no side, nothing. You want to make just a rooftop over Apache Junction, just having nothing but homes next to each other. Fine. That's going back to an old south side of Chicago deal. You walk down between the homes and you can touch each one. The neighbors don't want this to happen, so let them stick to the regular single-family home sites or leave the zoning as it is for apartment buildings. The apartment buildings would not be anywhere near as close as they want to put these homes. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Mayor?
Yes.
Chairman? My name is Thomas Bridget. I live at 2219 South Palo Verde. I'm the west end of this development where you can lose the view. I get a field behind my house. 118 units in this size property. They say there's going to be no street parking. Well, who's going to stop people from parking on the street? Their 96th Avenue housing project that they're working on now, people are already parking in the streets. Those streets are narrow. The fire department said, I'm not sure, somebody said something about the fire department may not have had any concerns. I do. They're behind my house. They're not going to be able to get back there if something happens. There's not going to be an ambulance getting through there. Yeah, I will lose my view. If you put an apartment back there, I'm going to lose part of it. However, there'll be a little more parking. It'll be away from my fence. It'll be a larger buffer area. I don't think that this is going to be doing our community any good. Yes, there's a lot of revenue. 118 houses, you'll get a lot of tax revenue, and that's a wonderful thing because we need some money here. However, I don't think that you're going to be improving your area. It'll lower the cost of housing around it. All the houses there are somewhere around 200, 210, 230,000. You're going to bring in lower cost housing, slam them together. It'll reflect in the neighborhood. No one else will be able to sell their house. It'll bring us down. It's not going to be what we need. I just left an inner city. I just left from California. I've been living in Petaluma. We have a lot of little developments like this. A few years down the road, they're not as pretty. Yeah, there is no front yard. It's not going to be doing our community any good. We need revenue, I agree. But I don't think we need to at the expense of everyone else around it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Les Kraus, 2165 South Palo Verde. Good evening, y'all. First of all, I agree with everything those two had to say. And kids, there's one sidewalk. How are the kids in the east or the north and south going to use the sidewalk? And how are they going to get to school? If they go to AJ High, they have to walk out on the streets, or the middle school down there on the streets. Walking down Ironwood, which is a nightmare in itself. And mommy and daddy all have cars, and the kids are going to have cars, and they dump all those cars on the street in the morning. Unconscionable. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Jaime Sosa. I live at 2050 West 22nd Avenue. I live right on the west side of this property. I'm concerned about a couple things. I addressed these concerns, but I have more with the planning and zoning. My house actually will be right behind or right the amenities that they're planning to build. I've sold real estate in Chicago. I'm concerned about the devaluation of this property that's going to do to our house. He showed us a graph of basically how our views are going to be blocked. That is one thing. Basically, we've had another builder before that last year trying to build behind us. They were actually going to be set out more, actually double our views. Actually, he had two cranes out there, drew a line between the two cranes, and he showed us how much mountain actually would be left. We had very little. It was just basically the tops of the mountains. My main concern is that this property costs less than our property. It's going to bring our values down. There's no space in there. They're basically going to invite investors to buy these properties. They're going to rent them out to whoever they can to basically maximize their money. Basically, they're going to sell the views. I know this because I sold real estate. I know what they're going to do. It's going to bring in the wrong element. We're fighting that in our own neighborhood. Our neighborhood has bigger streets. We're fighting with the traffic as it is. People are parking on both sides. You can barely get one car through. These are more narrow streets. We have already so many incidents in our own neighborhood with people that rent their houses to whomever. We have some neighbors that have had multiple cars, RVs, and vehicles that are parked. There's not enough space in our neighborhood, much less this one. They're estimating over 300 vehicles in this place alone. Aside from the traffic it's going to create on Ironwood, there's only one way in and one way out, and the noise, it's going to bring in the wrong element. It's going to bring in renters. It's going to bring in the juveniles. I have friends that actually are in Parks and Rec, and they know the troubles that happen at the skate park. With all the amenities that are going to be right there, they're going to be in my backyard. The elevation is higher on that side, so you can look over our fences really easy. You're going to have kids, you're going to have people drinking, you're going to have loud noise. You're basically, instead of having one neighbor behind my house, I'm going to have over 300 neighbors, all congregated in the same spot because that's where all the amenities are. I've sold security alarm systems for the last 11 years. This is what I do. I have a business. I've worked at every little ghetto and barrio from my house in Apache Junction all the way to the west side of Phoenix. I've seen what they did to south side of Phoenix. They're trying to revitalize it, but those people are in there. They might have nice houses during the day, but when they go shopping at night, you're going to have the wrong element. And I'm afraid that this place will turn into a ghetto really soon with it all being in my backyard. Aside from the $35,000 I spent in my backyard, I'm concerned about the security of my home, of all the people that are going to be in there. So I have serious concerns with this property. Apache Junction is seriously in danger of being the armpit of the East Valley, you know, with the businesses that they're putting in, with all the car repair places, the liquor stores, the dollar stores. This is the wrong type of property. We should be building property like Gold Canyon and some places of East Mesa. We need to build better properties with more space, not less space. Aside from being a fire hazard, I don't see any benefit of having this property here in town. I really don't. So I hope that you guys use the wisdom that the 3 commissioners voted on our side to reject this property at the Planning and Zoning Committee. They were stumped themselves. 3 of them didn't want it. 3 of them did want it. I'm hoping that you see the foresight. That's all the time I have. Thank you.
You have more time if you wanted it.
Actually, I do have more time. All right, I have a couple more things to say then. I planned, when I first moved down here 11 years ago, I moved from Scottsdale and moved to Apache Junction. My friends ridiculed me. They told me, why are you moving to Apache Junction? There's nothing but mobile homes, meth labs. But I saw the future. I saw this mountain. I saw the views. Being in real estate all those years, I saw that location was everything. And I've invested myself in this community, in my church. I've joined the Knights of Columbus over 2 years ago to give back. I got time to a point in my life where I wanted to get back and give back to my community. And with the Knights of Columbus, we do that, you know, by contributing to the Boys and Girls Clubs and other organizations, like putting American flags in our high schools and our schools. What you're going to be doing by not by scaring residents out of it, we should all share in the view of Apache Junction. This place could be a place like Sedona or Jerome. And what we're doing is we're going the other way. So thank you for your time.
Is there anybody else? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor.
Yeah.
Annette, could you put that first map up of the subdivision? You had one there that was in black and white. Maybe, yeah. It was on the screen.
It was on the screen.
Yeah, it actually fit on. Hold on, go back to that. Okay, so we're talking about the red area that's the CR5 PD. That's currently zoned CR5, period.
Yes.
Right. So, if we were to do nothing, tomorrow an apartment complex could come in and build yet even higher density than what this project is building.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many neighbors would they have if these were apartments?
As many as 220.
I don't understand this. I mean, people who own normally take better care of their stuff than people who rent. That's, you know, nothing against renters. Last time I said that, I got in trouble. But I can't understand. They could have worse if we leave it alone. I don't understand here.
Your Honor.
Well,
excuse me. Yes.
Would it be out of line to ask what one of these homes would sell for? I hear slums. I don't.
They said $220,000 each.
That's what the other homes in the CR3 are going for, is what I said. I guess there's just a few things that that gets me about this is zoning carries everything. Sure, we would love for them to zone the opposite way and go with the lower zone. They're not choosing to do that. They're choosing to stay with the current zone that it is. And the fact that it is owner-owned, to say that it's going to turn into rental and then you get all the blight and the problems like that, I'd much rather have somebody who owns it living there, or in the vast majority of them, than just a complete 118 units of rental property that's not owned by but one individual. It is our goal to have better community and better construction and that, but the fact is there are a number of these parcels out there. This is what the mayor was referring to when he said we don't have land to grow on. This is the land that we have left to grow on as infill property. And you know, I don't get any joy out of taking your view away. I lived next where I had the beautiful view of the mountain, and I live in a much lower density area, but where did the guy decide to plant his Palo Verde tree? Right in front of my view of the mountain, so I don't get to see the mountain now. Is his property. It's just that it is about the zoning. If it was going the other way and this was zone CR3 and they were trying to ask for smaller lots, it wouldn't even be a question. The answer would be no, absolutely not. But they're not. It's an equal comparison to the size of the property.
I'd like to ask our city attorney a question, if possible. When they have their HOAs and their CCNRs, is there any way that they can put in that, you know, they're not rental properties, or they can, is that a possibility, or is?
I think that's, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that's been tried across the country, and I think there's some case law from other states that say that's basically a violation of the property owner's right. You can ask Mr. Williams if he wants to address that issue. Mr. Chairman, it's Mr. Williams, right? But if you want to reopen it, but I don't think, from my research that I've done, I've been asked this in the past.
Okay.
I don't think such an alienation of property rights would be legal or enforceable.
But if an investor come in and wanted to buy 5 or 6 of them to rent them out, you mean they tell them they would let them do that? That's what they're.
I believe so.
They could do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to see us rezone this to R143 and build 9 homes in there. $1 million mansions. But that isn't gonna happen.
They're not gonna.
It won't happen.
No way.
You know, I mean, I would love to see us do that in every vacant lot we've got in our city, but it isn't happening. We could leave this alone and get 220 apartments in there, or it could sit vacant for the next 10 years and do nobody any good, you know, except for your views. This is what they want to do, and this is what it's comparable to what it's already allowed to do.
You know, as far as, you can't speak anymore, sir, sorry. You know, as far as losing views, I've said it before. I had a beautiful view of my other house of the mountain till the city come in and put a $3 million gallon water tank right across the street, and that blocked everything. So I mean, you know, we all you know, love to look at the mountain, but it's like, you know, I moved here, and the vacant lot next, I don't want nobody else to move next to me. So you know, if I had my choice, I'd rather have 118 homes and 220 apartments, because then you really can't control people. I'm sorry, Mrs. Barker.
I have a few concerns other than those that have been mentioned. I am concerned about the single central walkway there. Seems to be awfully distant from the corner lots. It's a very long way. I suppose that will be up to the buyer. I think the addition of the sidewalk on one side is a good concession. I think that helps. And I'm also concerned about the single entry.
Ingress, egress.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about that.
It's ugly, it is, it's horrible.
Well, I think it's gonna, I think I see some real traffic congestion there, and I'm wondering if there's any way to fix that to allow for a smoother flow of traffic, because if you have most of these occupied, you're going to have 118 vehicles marching out of here at 7 o'clock every morning and back in at 5 o'clock every evening, and that seems terribly hazardous.
On that top road,
Yeah, what is
the
that?
one that's running east and west.
Is that a crash gate?
On that top one, on the very west end of that,
Yeah.
Very
that
west.
goes into Renaissance Point, or Renaissance Park right there.
Right, yeah, I see
And
it.
then you can, it goes up and curves around, and you can take Renaissance out to Delaware.
So there's
So
a,
that could be another egress.
yeah, but
egress.
then you're flowing traffic right through an already crowded neighborhood.
Well, it's,
Don't a lot of gated communities have an out only where you hit the, with the electronic sensors on the gate that you can't come in, but you can go out that way? That would definitely relieve it to go out.
Well, isn't there
It's not
some driveway
really a gated.
Well, you have to have another, this isn't a gated community.
well, that's only one street though, so you still got the same traffic right there.
Your Honor, I also,
The street comes down.
like Robin just said, I would like to see a split right down the middle. Like if a kid wants to go from this unit, he's gonna walk all the way around here to visit his friend. Would you have to take a whole row of houses out right down the middle to make a sidewalk right down the middle?
Well, they're putting sidewalks, they've agreed to put sidewalks in each street.
I mean, like split it right down the middle.
Oh, right.
Oh, all the way through, yeah.
Would you have to take out 2, 4, 6, 7 houses, or could it be done?
Well, you'd certainly
without?
have to make them smaller, quite a bit,
Yeah, 6, not 7.
to do that,
1,500 square foot lots.
yeah.
Is there any more discussion?
I was curious what it would take to have another entrance, like around lots 11 and 12.
11, 12, oh, I see.
And how would they get out?
That goes into
Where's that?
Merrill Gardens.
Oh,
See,
That's
11
all
and
Merrill
12?
Gardens on the east side.
See, that's a problem I'm having.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking it's Ironwood.
No,
No.
No,
that's all Merrill Gardens all the way over.
yeah.
So if anybody else did any kind of a project, can you imagine
You have to go through
220
Renaissance,
apartments in this thing with one entrance?
you have to go through Renaissance Point no matter which way you go.
Fred?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the applicant has indicated to us that middle access point labeled, I think on the map, fire access or a crash gate, they would not object to that being open as a secondary access both in and out.
is that off onto 20th?
Yes.
Okay,
But
I see it.
that 20th is only a quarter of a block, and
Right.
I don't know what
Right,
kind of,
but
that's not really gonna help a whole lot.
We can go back.
Yeah, see, that's it, right, that's all that. See, what I was talking about on that other one comes back here on Palo Verde, and you could take that and swing all the way east and come up, pop out on Renaissance and go out on Delaware. That takes the traffic away from Ironwood. People could come in the backside.
That's another option that a resident
Yeah.
might have.
See, this is, right here, there's a little pony wall right through there with an opening, there's a fire hydrant right there. See, so the one entrance is here, emergency here, and have that other one come out here. Either go up here and out that way, or just out here and just out right out that way.
But even with this one.
I wish
instead
you
of
were
going this way,
pointing
they
on
could
the
go this way.
overhead so I could
Mr.
see
Mayor,
what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
We've got a bunch of sidebars going on.
Yes, I understand that. Can you put that other slide back up again? There's one thing I'd like to,
So where were
If-
you talking about? Can you point,
one of those
To
points
the-
there.
can you use the mouse to?
If they did use that secondary one instead of a crash gate,
This is the main one.
Okay.
that's the main one. It did, I know they're close together, but at least the people on this side would be could use this entrance and exit.
That's correct.
And the people on the other side can use the original. So that would help tremendously. I mean.
For ingress egress into this project, yes. And I don't believe you can move that any farther because there's an existing lot to the north.
No, like I say, but they look
okay.
close together, but
Okay.
you do have, at least that gives them, the people on one side, they won't have to go all the way to the very end.
And that driveway aligns with the street, if I could for a moment go back.
Yeah, okay.
That driveway aligns with that street.
Use the mouse to point it.
Let me see if I can work this mouse here. Right there.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got
And
you.
then their main entrance is approximately right there.
These,
Or their proposed main entrance.
Your Honor, there's no other way to get out of this, like at the bottom there on the south
No, we
east
looked
corner
into that.
or the southwest corner. There's no other way to.
In fact, when they first came into the office, we wanted this access right here.
Exactly.
And that can't happen. That's not their property. That's not a public right-of-way.
Oh, okay. Neither.
That's
is
just
the
a
other one.
line showing you the zoning district.
What about off of, see that little tiny stretch of Palo Verde at the top west end, the northwest corner there? That little stretch of Palo Verde?
This here?
No, back into their subdivision, back into their lot. That one right there, to the left.
Down?
Left. Yeah, the other way.
Other
The
way.
other way?
You're right.
Right here?
No.
Keep going right to the corner.
Oh, all the way here.
The other corner. Other corner. There you go.
Down, now down a little,
Cool.
down, right there. They put a driveway right there, which would be right at the end of 22nd Street.
See, their
Yes.
road comes through right about here.
Right there.
And then you could take this all the way out to Delaware. This is Renaissance. That runs all the way.
I understand. Their original concept was to have, it is a gated and walled community, and then they did away with the concept of a gate to allow traffic to get in and out quicker on their original proposal. But they did want to have a wall around their community. And then to open up that would have some impact. I don't know what the
Have a lot of
commitments are on that
impact on the
roadway
neighborhood.
or that piece of property. That may be a retention area, right?
Well, if you lived
right
on
in
that
here.
street, it would.
Right in there.
Yeah, I think that would be a terrible,
That
have
would be
terrible
an-
effects on that part of the
Yeah, and then
community. They
high
already have enough
insult
traffic.
to the owners on that
Yeah,
street.
I agree.
Is there anything else in this? Yes?
I have a question, Your Honor, and I apologize for not asking it sooner. It's for legal counsel for Cornerstone. Just,
If you do ask a question of the other party, you should open up this matter for public again.
Okay, so move. It's open.
Go for it.
Go for it.
okay. Question is, the streets are private. Understand that that would not pose any legal necessity for the city to maintain those streets over time. If they weren't maintained, a political reality over time could be that they would hit the city up to maintain those. Simply wanted to affirm that there's a financial plan in place that will provide for the ongoing maintenance of the infrastructure for the project.
Of course. One of the first things you do when you set up the homeowners association is to do a capital reserve assessment. Looks at all the amenities in the neighborhood, including the private streets. Looks at how often you're going to need to maintain those amenities and how much it would cost, and then put aside a certain amount of money each month or each year to take care of those kind of repairs.
That's the analytic framework. What we know has happened over the country over time is that they're not adequately funded and they come back to the city.
Yeah.
So just wanted a public comment that they're going to adequately fund those, and Cornerstone will get that funding schedule started.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may. Council, going back to the alienation of property rights, your dealings with other properties, that issue's come up, is that correct?
That's right.
And your research is pretty much consistent with mine, that it's probably illegal to do that, correct?
Yeah, my legal opinion of that, and it's come up quite a bit the last few years when home builders trying to limit investors coming into the neighborhoods, was that the courts did not look kindly upon restricting those kind of property rights, because what you have to realize is these CC&Rs run with the property, and it's going to be on that property for a very long time. So to take away that kind of property right is generally not favorable.
Thanks.
Your Honor,
Yes.
could I ask a question? If it's not too rude, how much will these homes be selling for?
We believe they'll sell in the neighborhood of 170 to 200. Right now, our average sales price for the homes in the Mesa area is approximately $190,000. And it certainly goes to speak that people are not buying squalor. They're putting in granite countertops. They're putting upgraded cabinetry and upgraded carpentry, upgraded flooring. So I think that goes to the question of, are these going to have nice families or not? Our demographics have shown they're young families starting out, coming in with 1 or 2 small children. That's typically been our demographics, and they've been buying nice homes with nice options, but yet for a reasonable price.
When the last home is sold, Cornerstone leaves and you're done? That everyone's on their own, or do you still have a presence there?
Well, typically in most CC&Rs that I've seen, once the 66% of the homes are owned by the homeowners, the control of the board of directors for the HOA turns over to the homeowners. And so at that point, they now govern everything that deals with the amenities, with the common areas, et cetera.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I would like to ask one question. And you had also mentioned the fact there's going to be a lot of young families with young children on it.
Correct.
Is there any, one of my concerns is you don't really have I'm going to say a playground, et cetera. What was talked to me about is having like a soccer field. Is there any plans for swings, slides, things along this, be more designed to have for small children?
Yes. Let me, well, why don't you put me on the slide? Thanks. See, boy, this mouse moves faster. Right here, okay, well, here's the basketball court. Right here, it's very hard to read on this, but it actually says tot lot. That is where we'll put in a playground that's designed more for little children, be it slides, climbing, toys, et cetera.
And what's down at the other end?
Yeah, what's at the other end?
Okay. Right here, we have the Ramada with a barbecue, picnic tables, generally for family gatherings. We have a swimming pool here. Then right here,
What's just to the east of the pool in the Ramada? I can't read what that says there.
That little green.
it says
area?
turf.
Okay.
It just says turf. If I read it right, are you talking about this little area right there?
And the next one up, yes.
Yeah, that both says turf, just the grass area.
I was thinking if I'm going to be at the Ramada having a picnic, I'd like for my children to be able to play,
Correct.
you know, on play sets.
That's a great point. We've gone through this design quite a bit with staff, and, I don't know if we ever thought of putting the tot lot over there, but we certainly moved the tot lot to that area.
Seems to me.
That's something we could certainly work with
You
staff
could
with.
have maybe the smaller one there and still have the other, since it is so far.
Seems to me that you could do it in both places
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert.
to accommodate.
Right. Now,
Because you've got quite a distance, actually, for small children and parents to go to this tot lot that's over here. I know that's the wrong direction, over there.
Right here, sure.
And then, if they are having a family gathering, they want their kids here. They don't want them all the way down there. I mean, that's, they can't see them, they can't monitor them, they can't do anything if
Right.
they're all the way down there. So it seems like you've kind of split the purpose
Right.
a bit.
Well, and the reason why this has come up before, and these are great points, and I'll tell you why we've kind of moved some of these amenities to the east here, is because we were concerned that the sound from the basketball as well as the tot lots would affect the neighbors. So, I mean, there's...
But you have the same buffer down in the corner here as you do up there.
Right down
You
here.
have quite a bit of buffer room down here next to the swimming pool, et cetera, because that's going to be loud, that's going to be rambunctious. Plus, the area of the basketball court is going to draw teenagers. And most parents are not going to be real happy about turning their small children loose in an area where that's predominantly teenagers. They're going to want to have a little separation there. So just a suggestion, something you might want to think about.
Well, that is something we're more than willing to work with staff on. I mean, we've set these amenities up with trying to work on how do we minimize the noise to the neighbors and yet put it centrally with the neighborhood. And this area here between this amenity lot and these, you know, you're really only looking at just over a football field long. It's really not that far. It may look, on paper may look a long ways, but actually it is not. It's just over a football field.
It's not that large. In the basketball area, is that retention also?
The basketball?
Where the basketball court is?
No, that's not
is-
retention. That's just
not
flat turf.
All the retention is down on the southeast.
Well, that, and I believe
Southwest.
there may be some up here along the north.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, the majority of the water retention is in the southwest.
If you go in our city at Renaissance Park, you'll, right off of Thunderbird, you'll find that they have the basketball court and the tot lot right next to one another, and I don't know if there's been any problems in that neighborhood. I mean, they're right there together.
And that's how it is in my neighborhood, too. And I see, you know, most city parks, they have basketball courts, volleyball courts, tot lots, all right close together. And
I think you'll find that kids are normally a lot noisier in water than they are on a swing set.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that really doesn't work.
Okay.
But fortunately, that's only a few months out of the year, so.
And I have
Yes,
one,
let's-
I have one other question, and that's all. On the paperwork that we have, it continues to say 30 feet, 2 stories. Does that mean, Kathy, that the ordinance in the second vote would have to be amended to show the 26 feet? The paperwork in both sections still shows 30 feet. Pardon? Yeah, in both of them. So there doesn't have to be an amendment to show that that's what they're going to do.
So on the real one, it shows 26 feet, but in ours, it shows 30?
Is that what you're saying?
The plan development changed as we've worked with them over time. It shows 30 feet, that should just be a condition on the ordinance, that, and I think it is, that to 26 feet as measured to the peak of the roof. And that should be integrated into the plan development narrative. I think that's where you're getting the 30 feet from. So the ordinance, the condition of approval on the ordinance would say, and we're recommending 26 feet as measured to the peak of the roof would be the maximum height.
So the question that I was asking is, do we need to amend that to say that?
In the motion.
In the motion.
To amend the narrative and plan development, yes, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And this sidewalk?
And the
Yes.
sidewalk and the 28
Yes, we
28
recommended,
foot and sidewalk.
go ahead. These two additional conditions.
28 feet road.
To the peak.
No, no.
Yes.
I just got to remind you that, I know it's been that time, but because we got those applications for the public hearing.
Yes. Since I did open it up to the public again, is there anybody else who would like to speak? All right.
Originally, my name is Tom Spurgeon again. Originally, wasn't this zone the CR5 single-story?
No, it is.
It's like
Fred, what was
Merrill Garden wasn't CR3?
No.
Or wasn't it single-story? No. That's what they said at the planning meeting. So I'm just kind of confused again. I keep
It's
listening to this.
multifamily.
Me too.
Pardon?
Multifamily.
Multifamily, single-story.
I thought that zoning changed when Merrill Gardens
That
went
I
in.
didn't think it ever
didn't
changed.
Because they purchased that whole lot, that whole area. So the zoning got changed to meet Merrill Gardens at that time. That's when the zoning got changed.
To single-family or single-story?
No, to what it is now.
Let me just clarify. The current zoning on the property is planned development, and we have a site plan that would replicate Merrill Gardens on the east part of the property, and then another portion of the property next to these neighbors here would be, even though we don't have a site plan, because that would have been Phase 3 of Merrill Gardens, they would be allowed to build that type of structure
Okay.
that high,
That's what we're
which
saying.
is 30-some feet, 31 feet.
Okay, there you are.
I'm still confused by you people, but that's all right. I've got time.
Is there anybody else?
Now, how do you do, where's the mouse? Whatever. Okay. Noel Benoit, 900 North San Marcos, Lot 35, Apache Junction. And I was at the planning and zoning meeting where some of these issues came up. Glad to see what Robin mentioned there. At the planning and zoning meeting, I suggested that they take this portion right here and put it down in this corner. Right here is basically 6 lots being used up. If they put it down in this corner, you've got 4 lots here and 3 lots here. They'll lose 1 lot. However, in the corner here, the neighbors had raised one objection, one of which was people looking over into their private backyards, et cetera, and children climbing up on the fence. If the clubhouse faced down the fence line this direction, everything is centered down here for potlucks, family get-togethers, et cetera. If the kids are at the pool or at the basketball court and parents are in the clubhouse, all of that helps kind of monitor the fence line and the privacy of the other neighbors. In addition to that, by losing just a little bit there, you've got a little extra room on this lot. These lots could actually be moved down a bit, and this entrance could be widened, and then some of the children living in the area might walk to school. You also need a sidewalk in and out for those kids to walk to school and not be in danger of traffic. So that sidewalk could be put in this area so that then kids could walk to school. And I did go down and visit the Mesa project. The developer told me they were going to build the streets wider than the Mesa project. I mentioned my suggestions here and talked to some of the property owners over here about these suggestions. It would create a buffer zone so they have a better view of the mountain with all of this being farther away. And the neighbors indicated they liked that idea. So they would kind of remove their objections if that was all down here and this was a buffer zone. So we would take care of kids being able to walk on the sidewalks, all of the family stuff being oriented in one short area down here, smaller area, better supervision, better safety. And the developer had mentioned that he was willing to do that. For some reason, some of the zoning staff and stuff for development wanted to kind of leave it this way. That was their original plan or something as far as some of the staff. But I think, you know, and by the way, I also toured the homes that they build. They are extremely well built. I weigh over 200 pounds. Usually when I get on a staircase, the stairs tend to kind of bow a little bit. And when I went up and down their place, they were solid as a rock. They make excellent use of every square inch of the home, and the homes are extremely well built and are a very good deal for families just starting out and college students wanting to live together and invest into something they can sell when they graduate, et cetera. So overall, I think it would definitely fill a need in Apache Junction. However, I would recommend that those changes be made, putting everything down in this area and then widening this a little, having a sidewalk where kids could walk to and from school, as well as the sidewalks in the development itself. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else that we can get this evening over with? Yes.
Jaime Sosa, 2050 West 22nd Avenue. Originally, when we bought those properties, they wasn't built for apartments, and the choice, I actually disagree with the notion that we have a choice between either this community or apartments, because we would fight the apartments even more vehemently. But basically, Merrill Gardens was going to build a same type of structure right behind theirs, would not impede our views, and they were going to build little casitas. You still haven't addressed the problem we're going to have with traffic. Even if you put 6 entrances on that one little street alone, you're still going to have a bottleneck right there in Ironwood and all the way to the freeway. You have a high school on that corner. I don't see with 300 additional, and I'm talking 300 additional cars in that area, how the children are going to be safer in that corner, or anybody driving. It's going to be a nightmare with traffic. And as a homeowner, on the opposite side of where everybody's going to be congregated for barbecues and pools and everything else, what are you going to do to address our concerns as far as not only our security, people jumping over the fence, but also the noise level? The weather gets better in the wintertime, which means there are going to be more people in that back area as opposed to the summer. Thank you.
If there's no more comments, I will close this public hearing. Any more discussion?
Real quick comment. On the 28-foot sidewalks of private streets, we can't put sidewalks on the private streets, I don't believe, only on one side. I don't think we can put them on both sides. Isn't that right, Joel?
Yeah, they agreed to put sidewalks on one side.
Right.
Well, I think the applicant doesn't want to put them on both sides.
Right, but I don't think with private streets with only 28 feet, that we actually can put them on both sides if we wanted to.
Take up more space.
I'll reserve that for an engineer or a planner.
Okay, I thought that was a fire department issue.
This is an engineering guideline that the council adopted on that size of private street.
Okay.
You can only get one sidewalk on one
So
side of the street. There's not enough
answers
space
that
there.
one.
That answers that question.
The other one is just the ongoing thing of this about being apartment zone, and if it was apartments, it'd be fought anymore. If it was apartments, there wouldn't be a fight at all. It wouldn't come to us. It wouldn't go to P&Z. They'd go get a building permit. They'd follow the codes and build the apartments, and that's it. We wouldn't, no say whatsoever. I feel for you. I wouldn't want to live next door and have this project go in. But honestly, it for the area, for the zoning is everything. They picked the parcel to do the project for that parcel, and they're lawfully doing that. So it's unfortunate that you hope that lot remains that way, and you always have that view, but somebody always owns the property next door.
I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor, I have one more comment
Yes.
before the motion. I hope that, and I know, actually, that the developer and his legal counsel have been listening to all this, and they've heard all these concerns. And if, in fact, this does pass, I would hope that they would think about some of these things, and if there are any other changes that you can make that would help people feel better about this project, if it passes, I really do hope that you think of these things and don't just go on your merry way.
I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor?
Yes.
One procedural question for the attorney. Should they consider the resolution for the preliminary plat before the rezoning?
Yes.
What was that again?
No, that's
Before
not.
the rezoning.
Okay.
Question for the city clerk and the attorney. Does that impact the missing elements? There are 3 missing elements in the verbiage there. Does the resolution, passing the resolution as written, as the elements are written?
I think you need to put that in your motion.
So we need to amend the resolution as well as, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Are you ready to make a motion?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I move that resolution number 0735, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, approving the preliminary plat for Foothills, a residential subdivision in case SD 1-07 by Cornerstone Homes, represented by Evan Schwab, amended to read that each unit shall be a maximum of 26 feet at the peak, that all the roadways be 28 feet in width, with a 4-foot sidewalk on one side of every street, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes. With regret.
Yeah.
Again.
Mayor Slaughter?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Proposed ordinance number 1306, approved plan development for major amendment for Foothill subdivision by Cornerstone Homes by amending ordinance number 996. This is same one, so we don't need that.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1306 as read by the city clerk be approved and adopted with the following amendments that...
I got to read it first.
She's got to read it first.
Sorry.
You gotta re-
I dropped
that
right
top
on
part.
down there. Hey, I was looking at the clock. Sorry. Okay, I move that the ordinance number 1306 be read by title only and the reading of the entire ordinance be waived.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Right, Mayor Slaughter?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Now the main motion.
Ordinance number 1306, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, approving a planned development major amendment, case PZ-9-07, for a 11.62 acre CR-5/PD multifamily homes by planned development zone property, originally part of the Merrill Gardens development, located near the southwest corner of West 20th Avenue and South Ironwood Drive, by amending ordinance number 996, repealing any conflicting provisions and providing for severability.
Now the main motion.
Okay, I apologize again. I move that ordinance number 1306 as read by the city clerk be approved with and adopted with the following amendments: that each unit be a maximum of 26 feet at its peak, that roads be 28 feet wide, and that a 4-foot sidewalk be placed on one side of every street.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes, but I will make the comment that, I certainly do feel for the adjacent neighbors, but my vote is yes.
I think we all...
Mayor Insulaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Proposed ordinance number 1300, case number AM-1-07, text amendment to the zoning ordinance allowing guest houses, and Robin Barker has a conflict, so she will.
Voters will not forget.
Especially tax dollars.
Term not long, you just started.
Yes.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, I'm pinch hitting tonight for Rudy Esquivias, who had a personal emergency. The guest unit is before the council as a result of several work sessions at the Planning Commission and two public hearings at the Planning Commission to discuss a special density permit. Planning Commission recommended both a guest unit and a special density permit. When that came before the council as a public hearing, it wasn't advertised properly. The council directed staff to bring the guest unit ordinance back as a separate item, and that's what we are doing tonight. The guest unit, the purpose of a guest unit is to provide housing for guests, family members, caretakers, and caregivers. The criteria in the ordinance at the work session, I'm going to show you if I can put this on overhead. I'll get right to the meat of the ordinance. The criteria for a guest unit is that on any single-family residence, residentially zoned property, one guest unit would be permitted. to be constructed subject to the following criteria: that the guest house be conventionally constructed or stick-built constructed. Guest house shall be used to accommodate family, friends, personal caretaker, or a property caretaker. The guest unit cannot be larger than 50% of the livable square footage of the main dwelling on the lot, up to 1,000 square feet maximum. The maximum height of the guest unit shall not exceed 20 feet as measured from the adjacent grade to the top of the roof. That no more than one guest unit be located, and here we have in italics the suggestion from the council, be located behind or to the rear of the main dwelling, and that be permitted on the lot. All setbacks required for the main dwelling also apply to the guest unit. No manufactured home or recreational vehicle of any kind shall be permitted to be used as a guest unit. Item H, we get that? The guest house shall be permitted to have and we are striking out the 220-volt outlet for cooking facilities, and that the guest unit to have a built-in cooking facilities in general, like any single-family residence, was added to this provision. And we struck out but microwave shall be allowed, so that essentially they can have a full kitchen. That the guest unit shall not be operated on a separate rental, as a separate rental unit, and we struck out unless the entire property is a rental property, and at the suggestion of the council, we reworded it to say that the entire property is a rental property, the owner or leasee thereof shall not sublet the guest unit. The architecture of the guest unit must match or complement or otherwise improve upon the architecture of the main dwelling, including materials, colors, architectural style. The guest house is not permitted to have a separate address or a separate utility service meter or sewer septic system unless additional septic tank is allowed by the Pinal County Health Department. We've added that from the main dwelling unit. The main dwelling unit in the guest house shall be both, let me start over. The main dwelling unit and the guest house shall both use the same driveway for access. The guest unit may be attached to the main dwelling unit by a breezeway or other similar device, and we struck the guest unit shall be constructed prior to construction of the main dwelling, meaning that you could build the guest unit first, but in doing so, you would limit your size of the main house that you could build. In other words, if you built the maximum 1,000 square foot guest unit, you're automatically telling the city, my house will be 2,000 square feet. And then staff also suggests that since the Planning Commission, we would like you to consider, as part of that criteria, a deed restriction on the property, and you have the deed restriction. We took out the requirement for cooking facilities, so that all of these guest units would be deed restricted running with the property. And that deed restriction also says that these units will not be able to be rented. In addition, there was a question to look to the, or ask about sewer connections and septic facilities. I'm not sure what district this is, but the organization that reviews the public health agency, I believe it's a county health agency.
Is it county?
Yeah, they would allow them to use the same septic facility if it was sized appropriately for the size of the guest unit. Most of the septic tanks that are in this city are old and were sized to meet the size of the unit that was built. So in some cases, the guest unit may require a modification or addition to the size of the septic tank or a whole new septic tank. Also, the question was posed to the sewer district, and the same rules would apply to a main unit as a guest unit, that if you're 400 feet is the maximum distance you can go without requiring an extension of the sewer main. And I think both of those were questioned at the work session. That concludes my staff report. If you have any questions.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, there's no applicant or spokesperson here. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone like to speak on this? Hearing and seeing none, thank you. I'll close this hearing. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I just have one comment before the motion. If we had done the guest house portion of this first, we wouldn't have had to go through 9 months of research to do the caretaker suite. It would have already been allowed.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion?
That's true.
This down from the caretaker, though.
That's good. That's good. That's true. Your Honor.
Yes. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1300 be read by title only and the reading of the entire ordinance be waived.
Second? Moving second, roll call?
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surdy?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Walker? Okay. Mayor Enslato?
Yes.
6 in favor, the motion carries, Your Honor.
Okay, those,
You gotta read above it.
no, I was curious about this changes, the revisions that you'd spoke about when you first got up. Those are tied into the ordinance, correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Those revisions, when you first spoke, they're tied into the ordinance, right?
They need to be included in the ordinance.
Oh, they're not included as of now?
I don't believe so. I kind of got this assignment
Okay.
last minute.
Could you?
That's why I went through them. In this document, the criteria is the correct one. We have just put the additions in italics and the strikeouts, the verbiage is stricken out. So the document that I was reviewing with you is what needs, the changes that need to be in the ordinance.
Need to be
Is
And
it
I don't believe
possible to
we
say the
submitted to you in your
changes
packet,
that
these
were
changes.
read
Can you
by
slide that down just a little bit
I would not.
on the screen?
I would
Joel?
recommend that you
Slide it down.
I
Read
believe,
each one.
Can we say with the revisions that were given to
I
us?
believe ordinance 1300 does include the revisions.
Ari.
Not all of them.
I just want to point out one thing.
I thought they did.
Rear yard only.
We got, give me a moment.
Yes, sir.
It's in here.
Oh, it is? I didn't know it was. I didn't even know it was.
No.
Yeah, this is stating that it can only be in the rear of the main dwelling.
Side,
We've got a situation right now where it just went to Board of
side
Adjustment
or rear?
to be waived because if the house is to the back, then you can't do it.
Well, that was for a pool.
Right, but it's would be the same thing. Yeah, I believe that last one that was down there. And there's still confusion on what is your rear yard.
That's what I'm looking for.
You still haven't defined it perfectly.
I apologize. Everything except the last one is in the ordinance. That was a staff recommended condition that we do put a deed restriction on the property.
That we do
The last
put,
one needs to be added then, correct?
which is that we do put deed restriction on the property?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'm not sure that they are all in fact in there. It's kind of a rush thing. I think it would be better to read them into the record.
Okay, so read all,
Give them to me, David.
Yes.
you should have it in your packet.
They're stricken out in here?
I don't believe the strikeout is in here. That's
The
why
strikeouts aren't in here.
Why don't you hand it to Mr. Eck?
I will. I have to, there's two sheets here.
We don't have the addition.
No,
I'll get them started.
I know.
Can we discuss that for a second, Ari, or no?
Oh, he's
This
got
is
it.
bigger.
Yeah, you can see that better.
Thank you very much. Meanwhile, I call for the city clerk to read ordinance number 1300 by title only. No, I didn't.
Okay.
You got it?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so then you're good for the motion?
Yeah, let me just read it by title only. Ordinance number 1300.
Excuse me just a second, guys.
Yes, sure.
Your Honor, before we go on to the motion here, can we discuss one of the stipulations? I don't want us to get into a situation like we are right now with swimming pools.
Let me ask,
You need to withdraw the motion in a second.
we have to withdraw?
Yeah, the motion to read the ordinance has already gone through and seconded.
I'm not withdrawing my motion.
No, he's not going to withdraw his motion. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance number 1300, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending the Apache Junction City Code Volume 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 1, Zoning Ordinance, Article 6, General Provisions and Exceptions, by adding new section 6.0108.3, exceptions for guest houses in case AM-1-07, repealing any conflicting provisions and providing for severability.
Okay, Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1300 is read by the city clerk be approved and adopted with the following amendments. One, on any single-family residence zone property, one guest house is permitted to be constructed subject to the following criteria. A guest house shall be conventionally constructed or stick-built. B, a guest house shall be used to accommodate family, friends, a personal caretaker, or a property caretaker. C, a guest house cannot be larger than 50% of the livable square footage of the main dwelling unit on the lot, up to 1,000 square feet maximum in size. D, the maximum height of the guest house shall not exceed 20 feet as measured from adjacent grade to the top of the roof. E, no more than one guest house located behind or to the rear of the main dwelling is permitted on a lot. F, all setbacks required for the main dwelling also apply to the guest house. G, no manufactured home or recreational vehicle of any kind shall be permitted to be used as guest house. H, a guest house shall be permitted to have a well, it's struck out, but it is 220 goal. Building cooking facilities in general, like any single-family residence. I, a guest house shall not be operated as separate rental unit. If the entire property is a rental property, the owner or lessee thereof shall not sublet the guest house. J, the architecture of a guest house must match, complement, or otherwise improve upon the architecture of the main dwelling, including materials, colors, and architectural style. K, a guest house is not permitted to have a separate address or separate utility services, meters, or sewer septic system unless an additional septic tank is allowed by the Pinal County Health Department from the main dwelling unit. L, the main dwelling unit and the guest house shall both use the same driveway for access. M, a guest house may be attached to the main dwelling by a breezeway or similar device. O, any person or ownership entity who builds a guest house pursuant to section 6.0108.3 of this code shall have recorded on said property a deed restriction for the use of the residence for the purpose of further restricting guest houses from becoming separate rental units.
Mr. Eck, can you go back to H?
H.
I didn't hear what you're about.
I read a guest house shall be permitted to have cooking, the way I read it, A, built-in cooking facilities in general, like any single-family residence. Now, on my copy, 220-volt outlet is scratched out.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Moving to second, roll call.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Was
Oops,
she-
I'm sorry. Yep. Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Zlotko?
No.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, the motion carries, Your Honor.
Okay. Direction on televising work sessions. Councilmember Surtee.
Okay, quickly, I know it's late. Okay, this is 2007. We're on video all the time. All the C-SPAN, all of those are all work sessions. Everyone gets to see what their elected officials are doing. I checked, a lot of cities even broadcast their P&Z meetings so that people can be brought up on that. These meetings belong to the voters. I'd like them to see what we discuss so that they're not just seeing rubber stamps on Tuesday. Don't know why we came to the decisions we came to. I spoke with the broadcasting staff, and they would look forward to broadcasting them. Some issues that I think the public should have seen was our discussion on cargo, on the storage containers, of why we arrived at what we did, and that they're not just metal boxes. They would see that the presentation that Chip did. Also, when the sewer district guy was here, and Rick, even yesterday, the $105,000 that we'll be voting on to possibly allocate for the grants, we're gonna have a hard time selling that to the public unless they see us discuss that. So I would want all that stuff in the open so that they'll know how we're spending their money, what we're working on, and so those would be my reasons.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I agree. I think we should do Mondays also.
Your Honor.
Yes. Where did it come from?
On this side. One of the biggest complaints that I had heard from a lot of people was that when they view our city council meetings, it seems that we're not doing much discussion on an issue, and we're just strictly rubber stamping a lot. They're missing out on the opportunity to see us discuss the different issues, which sometimes we spend quite a little bit of time on. And I feel publicizing this will help showing them what we're discussing and how we're doing this.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I've had several citizens come to me, and same thing that Jeff had said. You know, they seem to be hearing only bits and pieces of what we're voting on, and I believe that the work sessions are a little less formal. There's a little more real discussion, basically more meat and potatoes on each issue. You know, more real discussion than we do on Tuesday nights. More comes out on this night. I would hope that it wouldn't change if we are televising it, that we could still have our real discussions, more discussion, and get everything out on the table, discuss it openly, and let the citizens see that so they know what we are voting on.
The only thing I see is that, remember, what we discuss on Monday night doesn't come up usually until the following meeting.
A couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks.
Maybe a month.
And now, are they, or a month sometimes, are they going to realize that or not?
Well,
I'm still talking, please, let me have a stand. Are they going to realize that, gee whiz, they talked about that last night, but now we're watching it tonight, they didn't come up, it's not here. So, I mean, there's going to need to be some finesse, something done so they know that what they see on Monday night is not going to be televised the following night.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I would suggest that we just consciously think more about stating then on these items when that item's going to come back, so folks will know that it's either going to come back in 2 weeks, or it might take 2 months, being that it's an ordinance or something. But, after each item, especially if it's not coming back the following night, but we state when we believe it's going to come back.
Okay.
I think it would be necessary to caption the meeting at all times with the date so that people would know.
Well, there's some items that we have no idea what the date will be.
I mean, the date of the work session would be, this is a work session from August 20th, so that way they would know that they're watching something from.
Your Honor.
Well, I sure hate to give staff any more work than what they've got, but yes.
After the fact.
Yes.
When I had talked to Matt about it, he said that it wouldn't be any problem just to caption the bottom of it. And if something is set, you know, that this will be coming back on September 17th, it'll be captioned stating that.
Or if we have a back-to-back,
Exactly.
which happens on occasion.
Sounds good.
Okay. Would you like to make the motion,
How does
Jeff?
staff feel about that?
I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding televising work sessions. That we direct PR department to begin filming and broadcasting city council's work sessions with a caption to make the public aware of what is being broadcast.
Second.
Moved and second, a roll call.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Mayor Insulaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
There will be no work session held on Monday, September 3rd, in observance of Labor Day. Do I have a motion for? Yes.
I move that an executive session at 6 PM and a work session at 6 PM be held on Tuesday, September 4th, 2007, in the City Council Conference Room and City Council Chambers respectively.
Do I have a second? Second, roll call.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Mayor Insulaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
We are adjourned.
I don't like the ingress egress.